Coming in at number 40 is Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty. The Sons of Liberty. So here's another game that when I first played it, it became my favorite game of all time at one point. Eventually, like I said, right, as the years went on and what games kind of held up for me more and all, I ended up adjusting my list. But that's how highly I thought of this game back when it came out, in the very stacked era of games that were coming out that were just hit after hit after hit of what was 2001. So that stretch from like the fall to the winter of 2001 was just incredibly stacked with incredible games. And this is, for me at the time, was probably my favorite one. And being a huge fan of the first one, I was really excited with what they were going to do with this one here. And once I got my hands on it and got to playing it and all, and nothing was spoiled for me, because again, luckily this is still a time where the internet wasn't quite what it was today, and so a lot of its secrets and all that, right? I went into it completely blind. I mean, the main thing I knew was just that you're Snake, and you start off on this kind of a tanker here where you start off the game, and so I wasn't quite sure, like, does the whole game take place on this or what's going on? And ultimately, this is an old game and all, but I definitely don't want to spoil anything for it, just because that's a big part of this game, is what, ends up happening in the story. But what I got in this game was, yes, a very cool stealth action game. But also, it ended up being something more than that, where, oh my God, my gameplay of this is horrible right now. But as far as the game goes, right, it expanded on a lot of the things that the first one did good, and that is the stealth gameplay mechanics, the varied mechanics too, where you're doing different things throughout the levels, very clever boss fights and all, and just being able to shoot in first person perspective and all, drag the bodies, hide the bodies and all that. That was all great, right? And it definitely expanded on what the first one did well. And I'm deceased, but. So on that end there, if you were a fan of the original one, right, and again with this expanded moveset that you can do in this one, it was great. And then the graphics also were just hugely improved. So this game came out originally on the PlayStation 2. And it was a pretty early game in the PlayStation 2's lifetime. And so just seeing these graphics and all for the first time was really impressive. I mean, it was definitely something that was showing, like, this is the new generation and all. I talked about Devil May Cry earlier in my list here, where that was like one of the first games that I saw that it was like, okay, this is the next generation for sixth generation. Shortly after I played this game, and I was like, okay, this is really the next generation. And, like I said, that 2001 was just a crazy good year. But when I saw this playing, I'm looking at the graphics and it was running at 60 frames per second. So just a little side note here. So it came out on the PlayStation 2 originally. The version that I'm playing here is the Switch version that came out with the Metal Gear Solid Collection Volume 1. I will say that it's a playable version. It's just that it's not the version that I would recommend to play, just because it's for some reason they weren't able to get this game to run at 60 frames per second, although it does on the PlayStation 2. And what you're seeing here is running at 30 frames per second. And again, I mean, if it plays fine, and also if you're not too much about that stuff, then you don't really have to worry about it. It just seems a little weird, right? And although they couldn't make it to run at 60 frames, because this was definitely a showpiece for the PlayStation 2 early in its lifetime. And I mean, the rain effects and all were really cool. And, again, this was back in 2001 that we were seeing stuff like this. So it's pretty impressive. But, yeah, the way you can sneak around in the missions and all the different variety of ways that you can go about the stages and all to, meet your objectives or dispatch of the enemies and all that was really creative. But as I've said before and all that, Metal Gear Solid, the games that have really hooked me on the series, has been, yes, definitely the gameplay is very creative and all, but it's also the story too. I mean, I do like a Metal Gear Solid game that has a great story, and this is where this one really shined for me. Now, when this game first came out, it was beloved by a lot of people. I mean, the game was getting excellent review scores pretty much across the board and all, and people were really loving it. But as a little time went on, the game was maybe not as well received, and I think people were just finding there were just certain elements about this game that kind of turned people off on it, and so I can understand that. What I will say about the story, right, well, again, without getting into spoilers, I know it's an old game, and pretty much everyone knows what happens and all that, but it goes beyond just the obvious spoiler, right? But ultimately, the way I kind of looked at this game was that it took me on a mission that started off with just your typical spy espionage things, and then ended with me really trying to make sense of like the world and the society that we're living with, how everything is going digital, AI, and all that. This game came out in 2001, so we're in 2025 now, at least at the time I'm recording this. And so I'm sure that a lot of us are aware of kind of where we're at with some of that stuff, right? With anything from like social media to AI to fake news to what is real out there and all. And this game, I mean, the foresight that this game had, or the creators had, Hideo Kojima and his team, to really touch on a lot of those things that we're dealing with now is very impressive and almost eerily impressive. There's a moment in this game that I'll just say it's towards the end. And these older Metal Gear Solid games, I should say. So they're known for like their codec calls, and I'll show you one here in a bit. And part of them is just they're optional, just as you're going through the missions. You can call in one of the people on that are helping you out, and they'll give you tips or whatever, right, and all. And some of them though are done for the purpose of the story. So for example, like if I call Otacon here. Yeah, so he's just giving me information here, right, about something going on with the game. And it's cool, right? There's tons of dialogue in this game. There's a lot that I can imagine what the script of this game might have looked like. There is so much dialogue into this game. Communicating with your team members on through this codec thing, and if you continue to call them, it's surprising like how much different things they have to say. After a while it starts repeating, but there's a lot of different stuff, and then also depending on when you call them, right, will depend on what they have to say. But anyways, sometime later on in the game, I'll just say that there's a fairly lengthy conversation through this codec that happens that is story based, so it's something that you have to go through. And when you put it into the perspective of nowadays, every time I watch that scene, it gives me chills. Just because, again, it's almost frightening of just how it was able to see more or less what's going on now. And there's a whole discussion that can be had about that. And there's a lot of great discussions on that is already online on YouTube and all. And back in 2001, I remember listening to this stuff, and I didn't quite get it because, again, social media, internet, and all that wasn't quite what it is today. But I remember thinking, I was like, this feels frighteningly real, like something that can really happen outside of a lot of the fantastic elements that happen in Metal Gear Solid games, right? I mean, obviously the game is very, fictional as far as, you have like, some of the bad guys in it, they have like their almost superhuman power, so to speak. And so obviously that's all fake, fictional. But again, why I'm a big fan of Hideo Kojima is the way he can blend all of that to something that feels very real, though still, is why I was always impressed with these games, especially the ones that have a lot of story elements to it. And the game is a lot of fun to play also. Like I said, don't get me wrong, it's a very fun game to play. And having the expanded moves and all that, it more from the first one, and all was really fun to play through. I mean, it's just fun playing, in this game, just sneaking around and hiding bodies and all that, or going guns blazing, right, and all. And that's the cool thing about it, right, that it gives you those options there. But yeah, Metal Gear Solid, it really changed the way I look at things back then. That in a weird way kind of prepared me for everything going on nowadays. And so, not that I mean, there's so much stuff out there nowadays, but at the very least, it makes me, it started making me aware of like what to believe, what not to believe and all, and, know that some things are not as they seem and all, and basically to question things. And honestly, I owe a lot to this game here for that. And the other thing too also is, there's so much detail and lore in these games and all, and a lot of it based on real world stuff, that these Metal Gear games have taught me a lot about like history and modern news, and well, at least at the time when they came out and all, and also things that made me question certain things and all. That it's just they're very engrossing games to get into for a lot of different reasons outside of the gameplay. And for that, I really feel like these Metal Gear Solid games are just truly special, and they're absolutely worth your time. I feel if you want to go through a game that not only you're going to have fun with, but potentially it's just going to change your life in a way. And I know it's kind of weird to say that about a video game, but again, that's part of the reason why I wanted to do this podcast, this video and all, is just to kind of show just how much video games can impact us. I mean, there's movies and music and all that we can say that, this really changed my life, or something that that really influenced me in a lot of ways. The same thing can be said about video games. And so I guess that's the point of all this, is that I want to try to have discussions about them, to at least not to convince anybody that isn't a gamer or anything that, that they should play games, but just so that maybe they understand, right, and know why some of us are so hooked on this hobby here. But Metal Gear Solid 2 to me, really is a masterpiece. And I ended up ranking it a little bit lower and all here, just mainly because, again, the games that are coming up from here on out are just games that are absolutely amazing to me for one reason or the other. So the fact that I can talk so highly about this game like this, and yet it's only at number 40, speaks volumes, right, and all to the games that are upcoming on here, at least for me personally. But yeah, Metal Gear Solid 2, just an amazing experience. Coming in at number 39 is Super Mario Odyssey. This game came out on the Nintendo Switch back in 2017. It wasn't quite a launch title for the Nintendo Switch. It came out a few months afterwards, but it still came out within that early time frame of the system, and was really one of the games that cemented the fate of the system to be one of the greatest systems of all time. And between this and another certain game, it just made the system really special. As this game here, it is just such a joy to play, and some of the most fun I've ever had in a video game. For me, I've liked a lot of the 3D Mario platformers. Honestly, though, it's I've never really completely got into a lot of them, though. Like, for example, Super Mario 64, I've played it, and I've actually been playing it a lot fairly more recently, but I've never beaten it yet. And the Super Mario Galaxy games, I've been going through them, and they're very fun, but I never really got into them back in the day. And so the Super Mario Sunshine, I did try to get into that one, but I have a hard time getting into it. Let's see, what was some of the other ones? No, those are some of the major ones anyways. And so, and I like the Mario games and all. It's just that for me, I think that I was just more of a 2D Mario fan. And the new Super Mario games that were coming out for the 2D Mario weren't quite doing it too much for me also. I mean, they were fun enough and all, but I was like, oh, okay, I can take them or leave them. But when this game came out, it was getting a bunch of good reviews and all, like usually Mario games usually do. But then once I started playing it, I was just having so much fun with it, and it just made it for definitely like the kind of Mario game that I've always wanted to have, where the controls are very easy because of the two Mario games that I really 3D Mario games that I played, Super Mario 64 and the Super Mario Sunshine. Not that the controls were bad in them and all for what they were, but I don't know, something about them though and all that I just could never really quite resonate with them. But this one here just made things more simpler, and the tasks that you do in the game just a lot more fun and addicting, and just trying to collect all these power moons and all was just really fun. And then also the different objectives that you do to try to access them. It just, I'm going to say this word again, it just made it just such a joy to play through. And using the, what's it called, Cappy, and then how you can, morph into some other, whether if it's a creature or an something, right, and all to help you maneuver through the stage. It just made it for a lot of really fun scenarios. And yeah, I mean it's just so much fun, and the level designs and all are definitely some of the best that I've seen in a 3D platformer. Just trying to figure out how to get through the stages and all and find all its little secrets, or if you're just trying to make it to the end of the stage. And again, just such a blast to play through. And you get a customized Mario with some different outfits and all, which I thought was kind of funny. And so again, a lot of 3D platformers for me really thrive on how fun it is, how rewarding it feels for the for getting whatever collectible it has in the game. So for example, like this one has like the power moons are the main ones, but then also like you get like the purple coins over there, which you can use to access some items to customize Mario along with other things. And so that I guess that's what I'm trying to say is like, how fun is it to collect the collectibles in a 3D platformer, and then are they rewarding too also? Because that's I think what kind of makes you keep coming back for more. And again, just some of the things that you can transform into, like a zipper, right? It's just so fun, and just uncovering a lot of the little secrets all over the place. And this one just had a certain feel to it and all that a lot of the other 3D Mario games just didn't have. And again, I say that, without having really completely gone through the Super Mario Galaxy games, because I know those games are really beloved. But as it stands, though, I mean, this game here is just one of the funnest I've ever had in a 3D platformer, and a game in general. And I had a really fun time playing this game all the way through the end. And sometimes with platformers, and all, I kind of play off and on here and there. But the ones that hook me, though, definitely keep me, coming back to it quite a bit, like to play it consistently. And this was one of them here where I just kept playing it and playing it and playing it. And I beat it in a fairly short time span. The game is actually fairly lengthy for being a platformer. It's just that because I got so hooked on it that I wanted to keep playing it. So, which again, it's been a while since I had played a 3D platformer that gave me that want to keep keep playing through it to beat it. And for me, it's got that right kind of challenge where it's not too super challenging. And as a matter of fact, it's actually kind of, I guess, on the easier end. But, for me, I don't mind that too much, just because, again, I'm getting a little bit older. So, and also, if I really want to play a difficult platformer, it's something that I'll specifically seek out. But if I just want to play a platformer for more in a casual way and all, then I prefer like the level of difficulty of something like this. Of course, Bowser's still in this one, but you also get these, I forgot what they're called, but these bad guys here, they're like a rabbit-looking things almost, and they're sort of like the ongoing bad guys here in this game. Oh my god, I can't, what is the button on this? Jeez, I forget. I'm playing this on one of the 8BitDo Pro controllers, which is it's a good controller. It's just that sometimes I get a little thrown off on, for some reason, on what button does what. There we go. Oh, got some power moves. And the other thing, it's kind of weird. This is kind of a weird little thing, but I just like when you get whatever collectible the game has, like the main collectible, and then it has like a very like, I don't know whether if it's the sound effect, the animation, a combination of everything and all that, right? That it kind of like makes you feel like happy in a way that you got this collectible. I know it's kind of a weird thing, but I think that they do this on purpose, right? And it's almost like a slot machine, where you get all the, the sounds and everything. And it's like, oh, hey, you want something and it keep coming back for more. That's kind of how I feel about when you collect these here. So watch. I don't know what it is about that. I just think it's fun and it keeps me happy whenever I collect one of these. But yeah, Super Mario Odyssey, definitely one of the best Mario games in my opinion. And if you have a Nintendo system, obviously you probably already have this. But if you don't for some reason, definitely check it out. Coming in at number 38 is The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. So this little scenario gets this amazing adventure off and going. The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past originally came out on the Super Nintendo, and let's see, I don't quite remember the year. Was it 1992 or 93? Somewhere around there. It wasn't a launch title for the system, but it came out a bit shortly after. And it went back to the top-down view that the original had, as part 2 had they tried to do with the side-scrolling. But I think they I don't know if they must have gotten some feedback or not, but I think people just kind of wanted the series to go back to this style here. And I never played this game back then. It was one of the Super Nintendo games, again, that I just missed out on. So it wasn't something that I played later on. And the first time I played this game was on the Wii Virtual Console. And because, again, when I got the Wii, and then there was a bunch of games that you can get digitally and all, I ended up getting kind of hooked on trying to buy like a bunch of old games that I had missed out on, whether if it was on the Sega Genesis and all, but most of the Sega Genesis games I had played, so, or I still had some physical copies of, but I missed so much out on the Super Nintendo. So for me, there was like just a treasure trove of games there that I could access or buy, and that I had missed out on, this one being one of them. And so once I started playing it, I ended up getting really hooked on it and just really love this game a lot. And I can see why it is considered one of the better Zelda games out there. And had I played it when I was younger, I would have absolutely gotten really hooked on this game here. And because it is truly a great game. And what I really enjoy about it is having the Hyrule in this one is just so fun to explore, because back then the map size was fairly decent, right, for a game of its size. Nowadays, I guess it can be considered kind of small. But what I like about this game and all, and also why a lot of the game designs from back then I feel can be better still than a lot of the things today, is because I shouldn't say no space, but most of the space that you played through in this game has a purpose. Like most of the sections of the map that you go through has some little, or at least within close proximity, something going on. Like whether if it's a secret, an item, or something. And so because of that, there is just so much to do in it with not a whole lot of like wasted space. And I think that it's just such clever design, and again makes traversing through Hyrule just a blast, because you can go through the game and not find everything, and you can still beat it, I guess. But just finding a lot of the different items and all in the game just makes it for a really fun experience. And Okay, apparently I kind of forgot how to do this little section here. So just don't mind my gameplay here as I kind of struggle to do this. But yeah, I mean, it's just, and for that reason, again, right, and it just makes just going on in this adventure just super fun to play. It's almost like you have like this sandbox of that you're playing in, and you have all these cool toys, and it's like, okay, where do I start? What do I play with? Because all of it is so fun to do. And just the play mechanics of Link alone, I mean, he controls pretty well. They now made his sword swipe go more horizontal now instead of just sort of like a straight stab, and so that makes things a bit easier, which was fine actually, because it's one of the things about the first one. They kind of made the sword play a little bit difficult. And so the game it's definitely not as hard as the original Legend of Zelda, but it's just because everything is just more user-friendly, a lot more quality of life improvements and all. Like you get maps, you get, some direction as far as to where you're going. But there's still a lot of cool things to explore, though, and also doesn't lose that element of it. So, I mean, it's definitely more linear now than, say, like, the past Zelda game. But because of that, though, it feels more structured, more fun to go through. And it has its little story to it now, which is not, like a highly engaging story, but it's fun enough and all, where you're trying to, still trying to save Zelda to an extent, and then eventually what ends up happening afterwards is still pretty fun. And some of the best dungeon layouts too, also in a Zelda game. Again, they're just super fun to go through, and then how you use your items that you end up finding in them is just, again, just highly clever. And this is Shigeru Miyamoto and his team just firing on all cylinders with their Nintendo products. Because again, the Super Nintendo just had some of the best games out there, right, for a lot of their flagship series, and this is one where it's I can definitely see again why a lot of people consider this as one of their favorite Zelda games, because it is truly a magical experience. And if for some reason you haven't played this game, it's definitely play it. The music in it is really good. The graphics are they're nice. They're nicely done in it. Nothing too special, but they look nice. And although I thought it was kind of weird how Link has purple hair, or kind of pinkish hair almost, but whatever. It's just kind of one of those things that I remember back then. I was like, oh, that's kind of an odd choice for hair, but whatever. Maybe they just did it for certain aesthetics reason, like so he doesn't blend into the background as much. Or I have no idea, but yeah, it's the item management to an also screen I thought was really well done too. Oh, there you go. And there's Link and Zelda meeting again for the umpteenth time. Yeah, great game. Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. One of the best action RPGs out there. Coming in at number 37 is Landstalker. This game originally came out on the Sega Genesis, and this would have been about, let's see, was it 1992, 1993 or so, around that time frame that it came out. And so this game here is it's a great game. I really enjoyed this game. It's an action RPG basically, where you're trying to solve puzzles, go through dungeons and all. So in a lot of sense, it's very much like Zelda. But this is one of those games too also that just made the console war of the Super Nintendo and the Sega Genesis so much fun, because we had this game for Sega fans, and then the Nintendo fans had The Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past, which I had it on the previous ranking on this list here. Now, I know that might seem probably very sacrilege to a lot of people, because I understand how beloved Link to the Past is, and that's a great game. I absolutely love it. I already talked about that game here. But for me personally, I just preferred this one just slightly better. And, honestly, I might even kind of flip-flop a little bit between the two, but I still gave the edge to this one here for I guess a couple reasons. One of them is absolutely nostalgia. So like I said at the kind of towards the start, I'm a Sega kid, so some of the things I'm gonna have, certain games here that I just had a lot of nostalgia for and all that, playing them as a kid and all that, and it's just what I had more experience with. Because again, a Link to the Past, I didn't play it as a kid. I played it more as a grown up and all, and absolutely loved it. But I remember getting so lost in this game and just loving trying to solve all the puzzles in it, and something about the atmosphere of this game, the puzzles, the music, and all of that I just preferred this one over A Link to the Past. Very slightly, but I still do. And it's the puzzles are just, it's probably one of the things that really hooked me on this game a lot back then was, well, I should say like the dungeon design and then the puzzles, right, that you do to get through them. I just found them to be just very challenging, but very fun also. Because this is definitely a brain buster. I remember spending hours and hours on some of these dungeons here, just trying to go through them. But it was and I was young at the time. I was barely a teenager. But just having, it was like the right kind of challenge where I felt very challenged, but not to the point where I was, super frustrated. And then when I finally got to beat one of the dungeons on him, right, it just felt highly rewarding and just something that I just had so much fun playing this game. And again, had I played The Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past as a Nintendo, or as a kid, I probably would have been saying the same thing about it. But this is the one that I had though, and I definitely don't regret that or anything. And it's a game that it was if you were a Sega fan, it was definitely considered one of the more better Sega Genesis games out there. But I do remember in the media, like a lot of the gaming magazines back then, so a lot of people didn't seem to think too highly of this game, and I was like, why not? I was like, this game is amazing. But I think that a lot of it back then is a lot of this is subjective, obviously, right? And you like what you like, you don't like what you don't like. And if people really just thought that the Nintendo games were better and all, that's absolutely fine and all, which I think is the more popular sentiment. But I just always felt that Landstalker was a little criminally underrated. And I really got into it and all. And again, I think a lot this magazine, Game Fan magazine, because they were highly praising this game though, and I was like, yes, this game is great. Why doesn't anybody else really seem to like this game as much? And again, it was just one of those things where the Nintendo was just more popular, and I get it, Nintendo games are amazing, and also, again, not to take anything away from that, but I still felt that sometimes Sega Genesis games weren't quite revered as much as like Nintendo games, where I felt that they were, if not as good as, but at least, very competitive against them. This being one example. Another thing that I really liked about this, which I know is kind of a complaint about this game, but I did like the isometric view too also. I felt that it gave it a certain unique perspective on these dungeons and the world that you're exploring, that on how you traverse through them and all, and how it hid certain secrets and all, that I thought was just kind of fun to play. And while admittedly the trade-off of that is that the controls do take a little bit of time to get used to, I don't know, I still really dug it though. Oh, and I'm deceased. And so basically the story of this game and all is where you're this elf, Nigel, and you have your fairy friend, Friday, and so you're on a adventure to go find the treasure of King Knoll, I believe. And so you go on this island, right, where this treasure is supposedly at, and as you're on this island, you just go through a lot of different scenarios, right, and all that play out on, ultimately why you're in, you're doing these dungeons and the people that you meet, towns that you visit and all that. And the story on it it's fairly well done. It does have some intrigue, some of the mysteries on it and all are pretty intriguing. But yeah, it's but yeah, it's, if you like a challenging game because of its puzzles and all that, definitely give this one a shot if you haven't already. If you like, if you're a Nintendo kid and if you've never played this game, but you really like The Legend of Zelda, give it a shot. If you can get past the isometric view and all, I think that you will find a adventure that is almost as worthy as the ones from the Legend of Zelda series. I really believe that it's just it's a really great game, and I really feel like you'll enjoy this game. Coming in at number 36 is Panzer Dragoon Saga. This game came out, at least in the United States, in 1998, I believe, and it was it was a hell of a farewell game for the Sega Saturn, because at this point the Sega Saturn was pretty much dead. They weren't really releasing much more for it, but this game here, I mean, it was quite a way to go. Quite a farewell game for the Sega Saturn, and it came out in that legendary year of 1998 as well too. And basically what this game is that there was already 2 Panzer Dragoon games that had come out. One of them I had on my list, Panzer Dragoon 2 Zwei, and then the first one. And so those were on-rail shooters, but this one here, they decided to go in a bit of a different route. So at first glance, I mean, it seems like this game is also just like a on-rail shooter, but it's not actually. It's like a shooter RPG, I guess you can describe it as. It's definitely more of an RPG, as you fight battles like the way you would in a standard JRPG. You get random encounters, but the battle system though and all, it definitely takes a lot of elements from the more shooter focused games, and so it makes for a really interesting combination that is pretty damn cool though. And it takes that Panzer Dragoon lore from the first 2 games, which was very kind of mysterious, but it had a really cool world to it, and just a highly original sci-fi kind of world. But only now, because it is an RPG, we get to explore this universe more, get to know the characters more in it. Now, none of the characters in this game really are from the previous games, but just the characters that are in this game and that inhabit this particular game. And it just was just a really cool experience to be able to inhabit this world, and because it is so imaginative, and Sega really seemed like they wanted to do something with this series because they put a lot of money into it. I mean, these Panzer Dragoon games weren't cheap for them, but they just never really took off. And this game, I don't know for sure, but it came out really late in the Sega Saturn's lifetime. It was a pretty expensive game, but the Sega Saturn was already dying out, and so there was not a lot of copies of this game that were made, and which this game became another bit of a golden goose of a game for retro game collectors, where it's a little hard to find and it's very expensive now. I mean, you're talking about like in the thousands of dollars. And here's another game that I had at one point that I ended up getting rid of, and I want to kick my ass again for doing that. But it's because it really is an incredible game, and it almost seemed like they wanted it to be on par with something like Final Fantasy VII or so. Now, Final Fantasy VII is kind of a behemoth of a game, but Sega really wanted to do something with this. They wanted to make it something special, and for the few people that got to experience it, it really is that. I mean, the battles are really fun. They have a lot of strategy to them, as you can. You have to look at like your radar at the bottom to see where the enemy's weak points are at, or that you're not in their line of sight, right, for them to do some real damage on you. And you have some options where you can just use your regular blaster that you have as the Dragon Rider, or the laser beams from the dragon itself. And then you get like, I guess you can say like this game's version of like magic attacks. But yeah, you get like the homing lasers to like you do in the original shooting games. And it's turn-based, right, where you have your ATB gauge, so to speak. And yeah, I mean, it has a really fun combat system, and then exploring the world while you're flying on a dragon was really fun. And the graphics too, I mean, for the Sega Saturn, they were pretty ambitious, and so some of it doesn't hold up quite too well, but I think you can still appreciate the overall artistry of the game.
And I think that's kind of what wins it over, right? As you know, because again, some of the graphics haven't aged too completely good, where some of the things look a little rough. But the music in this game is just very impressive. All the Panzer Dragoon games have amazing music, and yeah, the boss fights in this game, and it's not too long of a game. There is a lot of cinematics on it. Honestly, it is a fairly story intensive game, but what is there for gameplay, it is really fun. But the combination of everything just makes it for a really special game, and that is it is a crime that this game is not available, for modern systems somehow. There was some talk, I think, that the source code was lost or something to that effect. I don't quite know, but yeah, I mean, it's just it really is a tragedy that more people didn't get to experience this game, because I think if they did, I mean, I don't think it was like a Final Fantasy killer, but it's a very good RPG, and the production value was there and all to make it very competitive with some of the higher end RPGs that were out at the time. And I mean, I'm not gonna say that this game is worth over $1,000 unless you're a hardcore collector, but you definitely should find a way to play this through emulation. It runs really well on the for example, like the Beetle core in RetroArch, if you have a beefy enough system to run that, and that might be your best bet to play in this game. It originally came out on 4 discs, but again, a lot of it is because of the cinematics in the game. But yeah, it's not super long. Like I said, as far as an RPG goes, it's not too super long, but you'll be here for a little bit and you'll have a great time. It's definitely an experience. It's an awesome journey, and yeah, just man, between this and like Shining Force 3, they came out so late in the Sega Saturn's lifetime that the system was already going under, and so many people missed out on these two incredible games. And this is sort of like the main game for the Sega Saturn that I think a lot of people that got a chance to experience it is probably amongst their favorite, because it's such a good game. It's like how it's just, I don't know. It's a bit of a tragedy that a lot of people just don't get to experience this. But yeah, if you can though, definitely check it out. It helps to play the part 1 and 2 before this, and they're fairly short games. They're so if you find a way to play Panzer Dragoon Saga through emulation, you can play those 2 games as well too. So I would advise playing them just so you get kind of a overall feel of what this game is, but they don't really tie to each other that much. So I think there are some connections, but nothing major. So you could go into this game blind, but I feel like you'll just get more of a feel and the atmosphere and the that this game's trying to generate, right, and all, if you play those first 2 games. But whatever the case is, if you find a way to play it, I highly recommend this game if this is something that you feel would appeal to you, like if you're into RPGs and all.
Coming in at number 35 is Sonic CD. And so Sonic, being a Sega kid, I got a little bit of a confession to make. I'm not the biggest Sonic fan. I like their games. Particularly the 2D ones. I think they're fun. They're fun to go through. I've beaten all the Sega Genesis Sonic games, so Sonic 1, 2, 3, and Sonic and Knuckles. I've only played a little bit of like the Sonic Advance games, which those look pretty fun too also, so I should go through them sometime. But again, I'm not the biggest fan of them. But this game here was the one that I really got into. And again, a part of that is because it was a Sonic game that I owned. And so my brother and I were one of the few, at least, actually, yeah, there was only me, my brother and I, and then a friend of ours that was also 2 brothers that had the Sega CD. And we were like the only ones in our area, or friends that we were growing up with and all that, had the Sega CD. And So this was one of the games that we picked up on it. And so again, because I had it and I was able to play through it quite a bit, I really fell in love with this game here. And so it's the Sonic game that I have that I feel is the best one for me. Some of that is rooted in nostalgia for sure. But then when I go back and play through them, this is still the one that I keep coming back to the most. And I feel the reason why is because I just really like the time travel element of it. And because I mean, the level design and all that, I feel it's still pretty well done. The theme of the stages is a little weird. So I guess that's one complaint that I have about that is, and it's not so much like a big complaint. It's just sort of like, the stage designs are kind of weird. But they're still fun to play through. I think they're, a lot of the stages, you got to utilize your speed and all, which is where the Sonic games are really fun. But the other thing that I like about it too is the time travel element, because I thought it brought a lot of replayability value to the game, where you're trying to, if you make the future good, then that'll help you get the good ending of the game, and so it brought that extra challenge to it, and it was just kind of fun to see how the stages look, when you're going through the past and the future and all that, and it was it just added a lot of replayability value to that. The bonus stages also were pretty fun to play through, right? To try to get all the Chaos Emeralds, and yeah, I just remember having a blast playing through this game a lot, and it's a Sonic game that I just hold really dear to me. And then there was a whole controversy about the soundtrack as well too back then. So my thought on it is I played through them now, both with the US version and the Japanese version, and I gotta say I really appreciate both of them. But I gotta say, and again, this is just probably because of the version that I grew up with, but I prefer the US version more. But whichever way, you can get this game now on pretty much anything now. And I guess for Sonic fans out there, I know that this is a bit of a black sheep in the Sonic family of games, but it's the one that I really like. So I'm just kind of curious. I know Sonic 2 is the more favorite one, but how do you have this game ranked in your favorite Sonic games of all time? I'm kind of curious to see how many Sonic CD fans are out there. Not only that, but also Sega, or the Sega CD also. Coming in at number 34 is Phantasy Star 4: The End of the Millennium. So, to say that I was very hyped for this game is an understatement. I was really looking forward to this game when they started announcing it. And so this game came out originally on the Sega Genesis, and it would have been around early 1995, I believe, where it came out. But the game was being announced, I think, all the way as early as like 1993, I believe, or so, give or take, and where they were showing screenshots of it and all, and the Japanese version anyways. And they were just talking about how the game was going to be really big and all, and was going to be... I think like they were at the time. I think they were talking about it was going to be like a 16 meg game and all, which at the time was pretty big. And all of this, right, and all that the game was just going to be really the graphics were going to be improved and all from its predecessors and all, and it just have more story elements to it. And all of that was exciting me a lot because I was a huge Phantasy Star fan, and it's. Again, I was a Sega kid, so I didn't have Final Fantasy or Dragon Quest and all, but I had Phantasy Star. And I was just such a big fan of the series. And so I was really looking forward to this one because the way they were talking about it was almost like it was going to be on par with like a lot of the best what Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest could do. And so ultimately the game finally ended up coming out. It was like... $100, I believe, when it came out, and it was RPGs were fairly scarce back then, and not only that, especially on the Sega, because the Super Nintendo seemed to be a little bit more welcoming of them, but not so much on the Sega Genesis. And I know that the Super Nintendo is kind of more known as the RPG system, but there was definitely some good ones on the Sega Genesis, and this being one of the best ones for me. And I really ended up liking this game a lot when it came out, so much so that I recall we rented it when it came out, but I wanted the game. This was one game that I wanted in my possession, but $100 is a lot, so it wasn't. My parents were going to buy that for me. So that summer of 1995, I went to work out in the fields with some family members or a friend of the family, actually, just so that I can earn some money to buy this game. And I remember that because I have some allergies to like pollen and grass and all. And the job that I was doing was pulling wheat from like a wheat field. And so I remember just coming home just with my eyes super watery and my nose running. I would get like these hives all over my arms and hands, and so probably wasn't the healthiest thing for me to do, but I just really wanted this game, and it was a job that I could get at the time, and because I would have been 15 years old, but I was able to save up money for it, and so got me a copy of this, and was a bit disappointed because it came like in a cardboard box and all, and I just really miss like the more hard shell Sega Genesis games, but I had it though. And so got to playing it and all, and I really got engrossed in this game a lot. And I never beat it back then though. I never did for some reason. And I do recall that I had a really hard time getting through this one particular boss, like maybe not quite halfway, a little less than halfway through the game and all, but I just had a hard time with it. But as years went on and all, I ended up beating it. And I want to say, I think this was actually one game that I also beat on the Wii Virtual Console. But yeah, ended up really liking this game. And it's, as far as like playability-wise, replayability-wise, I guess, it is my favorite Phantasy Star game in that sense. Because, the graphics are really nice. I love the battles in this game because they're very fast paced. I love the music to it, which is always, I think, a staple of having a good battle system or a battle gameplay in a RPG is that the music too, because you're going to hear it over and over and over again, right? That you want it to be catchy or fast paced or getting you ready for battle and all. But the other thing I like about it too also is just how you can plan out your attack. So you can pick particular commands for your character, or you can program it in these macros where you set it up. Okay, this is what I want the characters to do, and then you just press A, and then it just carries out the battle. So as far as like grinding goes and all that, it's one of the more funner RPGs that I've played for that there, just because everything is really fast paced and the enemy designs are cool, the backgrounds are cool, everything just goes by quick, and so it makes it more tolerable for that. Although sometimes the encounter rate can be a little high, honestly. But again, luckily the battle plays out pretty well. And then I love too also how you see your characters, where they go up there and attack and all. I thought that was a cool addition to this one too, where it was the same thing with Phantasy Star 2, but this one here, I like the way how everything, because like in Phantasy Star 2, for example, like if you have a two-bladed weapon or a two-armed weapon, he'll do one attack and then he'll do another attack. This one, they do them like back-to-back. For example, like Alice here, right? She'll throw both of her boomerangs at the same time, where in like Phantasy Star 2, if you had a character that had the boomerang, she would throw one or boomerang and then throw the next one. So anyways, just little details like that and all. I just felt that, made this one really cool. And another thing that I really like about it too is that with your techniques that you have, you can if you find the right combination, you could do like a really super powerful attack. And so those were always fun to experiment with on how to to find a lot of cool new attacks. But I really like the character designs to them and all, very anime aesthetic. And it really took off from like the style that part 1, 2 did also. Part 3 went in a different direction, and so part 3 is kind of known as the black sheep of the series. Well, the original series, right? We're not talking about the online ones, right? But yeah, I just really like the aesthetics of it and all, and just the whole Algol star solar system, the world that you inhabit in these ones that you get to explore, the more sci-fi space theme of the game too was very cool, which really hooked me on this Phantasy Star series, where a lot of things were medieval back then. The music also is really excellent. It's one of my favorite Sega Genesis soundtracks, because I love like this overworld theme here, if you can hear it. And then you get like the kind of really fast-paced, tracks too, also for like when you're in battle. And then it also has some surprise songs in the soundtrack too. I'll just say, like, if you're a fan of the series, you'll appreciate some of the tracks that are in this game here. But really like this game, and I love the way they tell the story with sort of anime aesthetics to it and all, where it makes it look almost like a manga or a comic book. And so I thought it was a fun way to tell the story. But if there is a complaint that I have about this game, and probably, because I've really raved about this game and I really love it, but there is one thing that's a bit of a complaint on it, and I had it back then and I still have it now, is that as I like the fast-paced nature of this game, as far as like in the battles, the speed of your character, the way they move on the map and all of that is great. But unfortunately, I feel that also plays out in the story as well too, where you're going from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next. And while the story of the game and the mystery behind it and all that, it's engaging enough. So it's not like it's a bad story. I just feel that it moves too rapidly sometimes. And so you don't really get to like soak in certain moments or certain locations and all that, because you're really just bouncing from one place to the next, to the next, to the next. And I feel that just kind of takes away some of the dramatic effects of the game, I guess. But still though, it's such a fun RPG to play, and probably one of the funnest old school RPGs, right, that I enjoy coming back to because of that reason. I just wish that they let the story kind of simmer a little bit more, or because it just really goes by at a rapid fire pace and all. But otherwise, just a great game. And also for me personally, one of the best boss soundtracks in a video game. Whenever the song comes on, it gives me chills each time. It's just such a great track. But yeah, Phantasy Star 4, if you're into old school RPGs and you haven't gone into the series, definitely recommend it. I will say that the 1, 2, 3, and 4, they kind of do follow each other. So if you're playing this one first, just kind of know that you're missing a lot of like backstory on it. And so realistically, I would advise you go through 1, 2, 3, and 4 in order. I mean, I guess you can kind of skip part 3, because it kind of did it plays into the overall story. It's just that it's sort of a kind of a side thing that happened. But at the very least, definitely recommend 1, 2, and 4, and preferably in that order. But I know that this is kind of the more popular one and all, so I can see why you would get into this one first. So if you do start with this one, just know that that it's worth going through at least 1 and 2 before this one as well afterwards. So. Coming in at number 33 is Final Fantasy IX. This game came out originally on the PlayStation 1, and it came out in 2000. Final Fantasy IX is a game that was kind of an end of an era, or I should say, yeah, it really was the end of an era for Final Fantasy. And I say that because up until now, so you had your games, the part 1, 2, and 3 on the Nintendo, and then 4, 5, and 6 on the Super Nintendo, and then 7, 8, and 9 on the PlayStation. And all of them were, I mean, the story, the gameplay mechanics and all that, right? They did vary it up and all that, and all of them are very different as far as, that they aren't linked to each other. But they all more or less had sort of the same combat system. They're turn-based, or I guess, I know there's arguments here about like if these games, they have the ATB
battles, gauge if they're still considered turn-based, but basically this kind of RPG and all that. And after this, and also because, the next Final Fantasy X ended up, on the PlayStation 2, better technology and all that. And so because of that, the series really changed going forward after this. And in many people's opinions, and kind of in mine too also, is that it was for the worse. What we lost was having an open world map, going into towns, things like that, where things started becoming more, I guess, open world, and also where, you lose like things like the airship and all that, and the combat systems got more action oriented, I guess you can say. But what am I doing? Oh geez, I'm getting deceased. But so we lost all that there. And so another thing too also is that, so the original series creator, Hironobu Sakaguchi, so he's come out saying that this is his favorite Final Fantasy of all time. And I want to say that, because I don't know how much involved he was in Part 10, but I want to say that after Part 10, though, he wasn't really involved, because he ended up leaving the company and starting his own thing with a different company. And so then again, after that, the series just kind of went in a different direction. And maybe a lot of people do like the more modern more action focused RPGs from the Final Fantasy series, but this was sort of like a love letter to like the previous Final Fantasy. And it's maybe because they knew that this style was going to be on its way out. And there was a certain sentiment at the time that turn-based RPGs were starting to get a little old-fashioned and all. And it's funny because nowadays they're making a comeback and people are yearning for these things more. But I think that was just a sentiment at the time. And so it really was like a love letter to like old school RPGs. And so for that, I think people just really have this game. It's really special to a lot of people for that, or one of the reasons. But outside of that, you do get a very cool adventure. One of the Final Fantasy games that really truly feels like you're on an adventure. I know that's kind of weird to say, but some of them just go very over the top on a lot of things that it just sort of loses a bit of that spirit there. But this one I feel nails it really well. And I think a part of it is just because it is very rooted in fantasy. I mean, as you can see, the characters, and all, it's very, it's definitely more on the fantasy side of things, right? And I think that was a very cool thing because, like I said, the Final Fantasy games that came after that, they're still very much fantasy, but this one was really leaned heavy into that. And so because of that, you get a lot of like very creative and imaginative world. The locations that you visit and all that are highly imaginative, and it makes for some very interesting character designs. Like here, you're Zidane, who he looks like a human but has a monkey tail. You get Freya, who she's kind of like a rat lady, and Vivi, who is just absolutely adorable, but a little black mage. And then you get Camila, who actually that's what I named her. I guess her name is Dagger, if I recall right. Or Princess Garnet is her real name. But anyway, that kind of plays into the story, and I won't ruin that there. But as you can see, right, and all, they all have a very almost like super deformed look to them and all, which makes it a very cutesy sort of look to it, and very storybook-like. And so, but the game can actually be a little dark. It's some of the story elements to it and all. It's not, completely kid-like. So the mixture of that there and all, right, is I feel why the setting of this game and the characters is just very, very memorable. And another thing that I liked about this one too is that 7 still played fairly traditionally. 8 got really experimental with the junction system and all, and I've talked about that game already. But this game kind of went back a little bit, to its roots, where the mechanics of the game, the
where you customize your characters and all. It's not really that complex. It's you're still leveling up like normal. You do have some abilities that you can equip on your characters, which you learn these depending on what equipment you have, and then you can pick and choose like which abilities you want. So there's nothing too complex about it, which I kind of liked about that it's sort of returning back to, again, right, returning to the roots of what made the series popular in the first place. And the music is just really charming. Like this song right here. It's one of my more favorite Final Fantasy battle tracks. And this, I can see why this game is a favorite amongst a lot of diehard Final Fantasy fans. I usually see it up there, like if it's not number one, it's within number 3 or so, within the top 3 or so, give or take. And I can see why, and that's kind of the case for me. And because it is a really fun adventure to play through. And the version I'm playing here is on the Nintendo Switch, which does a pretty good job of giving you the original game just with up-res graphics and all. Doesn't do a whole lot with the backgrounds and all, so some of the things look a little out of place where you're seeing the more high definition textures and the sort of blurry background still, but still pretty cool though. And let's see, I'm really not playing this very well, am I? I'm just sort of getting my butt kicked here, but I will say that, and I've been barely messing around with it, but there's like some mods that you can do if you have like the Steam version of the game or PC, I guess, where it's pretty cool on how you can make the character models look even better, upscale the resolution of the backgrounds as well too. It just gives it a lot of cool quality of life enhancements too. So that seems to be the way to play the game now. And they're actually working on a version too where it's going to have some voice acting, which I'm really excited to try to play. So that'll probably be my more preferred version of playing this game, because one thing that it does seem to improve on a little bit that I played of that version, and one of the complaints that I have of this one, is that the battle system just, I don't know, something about it that feels a little sluggish and a little slow paced. And so there's options in that one to sort of fix some of that there, which I'm glad, because it is a bit of a complaint that I have with this game here. And why well, I love the game and all. It's like that one little thing that I'm like, but the battles, they do kind of linger for a bit. Because with old school turn-based RPGs, you kind of want the battles to be a little bit more fast-paced and all, just because you're going to be, if you're going to be doing some grinding and all that, when they kind of drag out where they do the little cameras pan and all that, it's like it gets a little old after a while. It has a few options to try to speed it up a little bit, but I just still feel like it's a little slow for me. But other than that, like I said, very great game. And this year is actually, as I'm recording this, it's the anniversary of this game. And it came out in July of 2000, I believe. And so recently there was a celebration of the 25th anniversary of the game. And so I think this is one of the things that, for any fan of Final Fantasy, that is just a bit frustrating, is the potential remake that has been heavily rumored for this game. I don't know if that's coming out now. Like I said, I'm excited to go through the PC version of the game, right, with all the mods and all that. So that'll be like my remake of it. Who knows, again, if they're really going to do a remake of this game. It'd be really cool to see. But at this point, it is getting to the point where I'm not really holding my breath anymore for it, even though there's been a lot of clues that there is one out there. I think the last I heard about it was that there was a remake, but it either was in development hell or was canceled. So, it is what it is and all, but like I said, we still have the originals and the modded version that you can play on PC, so I'm good with that. But yeah, if you haven't played this Final Fantasy, I feel like if you give it a chance and all, it'll definitely become one of your more favorite RPG games out there. Coming in at number 32 is Guardian Heroes. This game came out I am pretty sure in 1996 on the Sega Saturn. When they announced this game, I was really excited for it, as when they started showing the artwork and all in gaming magazines that it was coming out, it very much looked a lot like certain character designs and all from Gunstar Heroes, which is another favorite of mine that was a few entries back. And that game really amazed me with a lot of its game mechanics, originality, and all. And so when it was announced that, it was a brand new game from Treasure at the time, and I was really excited to see what they can do on the more powerful hardware on the Sega Saturn, especially was because one of the things that the Sega Saturn was really good at was doing 2D graphics, and this game really seemed to be like a showpiece for that there. And I mean, just as you're seeing here now the version that I'm playing here is actually the one on the Xbox Live Arcade version, which is great because it's one of the few Saturn games that actually did get a re-release. And so it's one that I'm pretty sure you can still buy it on there. So, you can play it on there and all. And it's, so I'm so glad that they released this game on there so that more people can have access to it. But basically, as you can see with the graphics, there's a lot of effects going on here where, you can jump in and out between the 3 different planes on the ground there, and to sort of have some strategy to how you're going to approach the enemy. And there's some scaling and and all that also going on, and just a line scrolling that's on the floor there. So there's a lot of effects going on here, that again really show off what the Saturn could do. Now, even though this is the Xbox Live Arcade version, it's more or less, what the Sega Saturn version looked, just, more cleaned up. And then the UI looks different as well, too. But other than that, you're pretty much looking at what the Saturn looked like. Although this version, from what I can tell, does seem to clean up some slowdown. But yeah, it was, for me, my favorite Sega game on the Sega Saturn, and one of my favorite games from the 5th generation. It's just fun to play through, and basically what it is, it's sort of like a hack and slash, and where, again, you can't move up and down freely, but you can go like in and out of the planes like I'm doing there. And again, just gave the game almost like a feel like Fatal Fury from back in the day too, also, where you can do that as well too. And depending on which character you pick, they have their own unique set of moves. Like I am Han, who he's more of the tank, I guess, character. The only magic spell that he has is just a simple fireball. But like some of the other characters, they can do a lot more magic spells and all, at the expense of, not being quite as strong. But yeah, quite the varied cast here. And so you can have a few different ways on how you want to play this game. But it has some RPG elements to it too, where, as you can see, like from the way that the life bar is, and you can level up as well too to get you stronger and more life. And then at the end of each stage, you can also power up your character, where you're bumping up your stats, like I believe your hit points, your strength, vitality, I think, and agility, and so forth. Pretty simplistic RPG system, but the fact that it's there, right, and all is pretty cool. And another great thing about this is the music as well too. It's very catchy, very original, and just really fits the game like a glove. I don't know really how to describe the music. It's just, outside from what you're hearing here, but it just goes really well with the game. That has it's not like, it's not like your typical like heavily orchestrated score that you might think like in a medieval kind of game. But it just has a certain personality to it that, again, it just blends really well with the action and, everything going on screen. And there is a lot that goes on screen. I mean, this game can get super chaotic as you get into some of the later stages, and especially on the harder settings. And what was cool is, again, on the Sega Saturn, there was some slowdown, but it still kept up with it, though. And so it was just really impressive to look at. And again, it was just during that time where a lot of people were trying to get away from 2D, but there was just so many cool stuff, though, that could be done with it. A lot of great 2D games that came out in this generation. This being, for me, one of the best ones in the 5th generation. It was pretty cool right here.
I never get tired of hearing that. Just the way he yells and all, I think was always pretty cool. Um, but yeah, Guardian Heroes, it's very original game. It's very fun, and it has a sort of another game that, again, where we're getting into games that gave you some choice, right? And that just kind of getting expanded more as the generations went on. But what's cool about this one is, so after each stage, so you level up your character and all, and then afterwards, I don't think it'll do it right here. It's not, I think, until the next stage, but then it gives you some branching paths, right? Like, okay, what do you want to do next? And so it'll take you to just down a different path. Because I think I want to say there's like 30 levels overall, but you're not going to see them all in your first in one playthrough, right? Again, it's just depending on what route you're taking, or you're going to go down a different route, and because of that, you're going to see new levels, new story beats. I mean, ultimately, it kind of concludes to the same thing, more or less. But there are different ending bosses and different endings, so it's definitely worth multiple playthroughs, so you get kind of a good overall idea of what the game is. And but again, the combat is just so much fun. You have a lot of cool moves in it, and it's just when it gets really chaotic, it is a bit hard to kind of figure out where you're at on the screen. But I just love the chaos to this game. I think it is so much fun, and it's fun to control. And it's a very kind of a quirky game and all, but that's what I really liked about it. It was highly original, and it's definitely, again, my favorite game on the Sega Saturn. And it's one that, again, I'm so glad that it got a re-release. Otherwise, I'd hate to think that this game was just stuck behind a system that wasn't too market relevant, and also the physical copy, if you wanted to go get the original version, I would assume it's kind of pricey right now. So. But other than that, though, definitely check this one out. It's a game that I think you'll have a lot of fun with. Coming in at number 31 is Resident Evil. Oh, wait. Resident Evil 2. And for this entry here, I'm going to mainly say the remake that came out in 2018. No, 2019. Yeah, 2019, I believe, is when it came out. But I would almost pretty much even put it the original one. I just basically Resident Evil 2 as a whole, right? Whether if it's the remake one or the original one, it's just definitely me personally, probably one of my favorite survival horror games, and just an all-time favorite from the Resident Evil franchise. And what I liked about this particular entry is I just like the concept of it, right? And we're a little bit more out in the open, where it's not just tied to the mansion, which I thought was cool, but that now we're out in the city. We're seeing more of the effects of the virus that has taken place with a bunch of zombies running around. But we are still in some enclosed spaces, right? And all, like in the police station, for example. And while the original one was excellent, it's one of the better sequels out there of all time. This is another remake, though, also where I really feel that they did a really good job in. I mean, me personally, I would have been fine if they would just left it as part 2 and just re-released the game, right, for modern audiences to keep experiencing. But that they did decide to remake this game, and the level of quality that it came out in, I mean, it definitely gave a really cool new perspective on how to experience Resident Evil 2, as it is definitely one of the more better remakes out there for me, in my opinion. And because you get the over-the-shoulder sort of style that, say, like something like Resident Evil 4, but they're still able to maintain the creepiness of it from the original Resident Evil games. And I place this one higher than Resident Evil 4 because while I love that game, I felt that it wasn't quite it lost some of its scariness to it. It was very intense for sure. It's just that it started leaning more towards action oriented. And Resident Evil to me is just at its best when it leans more to the horror aspect of the franchise. And so I'm glad that they went back to that here in this one, where yes, it's third person, and so you have a bit more flexibility as far as combating these zombies. You're still limited on resources. You still feel very vulnerable. Items are scarce. Or well, I already said that, but yeah, and so it brought back the survival horror element of it, which is what made the franchise great in the first place. But now with these much improved graphics, and the RE engine is it's really something to behold. It's a great engine, and I mean, they've been just doing such a good job with these remakes and all. And this is my favorite one, though, that they've been doing. Because, again, Resident Evil 4 was really great. And Resident Evil 3 Remake, it has its issues, but it's still worthwhile to play. But this one here, it just, it took a framework. Again, it's kind of like the same thing with Metroid Zero Mission and Resident Evil Remake, the first one. It's justified its existence because it's taking something that had a really good framework and then just made it so much better, and where it almost feels like a brand new game. And for that, I definitely commend the developers, right, for making this such a great, a brand new cool experience for people to play through Resident Evil 2. And for me, it has probably one of my favorite characters in the Resident Evil series was Leon Kennedy, and Claire Redfield also. She's pretty great too. And another thing that I like about this particular entry also, and it's the same thing with the original PlayStation version, is that so kind of like the first one where you have the two different scenarios, right, where you play one person and then the other. So in this case, Leon and then Claire. But then after you beat their main game, it unlocks an extra version for for the other character. So you have almost like 4 different scenarios, right, to play through on this. And so that just gives it more replayability value, kind of expands the overall lore of the Resident Evil universe more. And there's just, and that's one of the main things, right, that I believe for this one here, why it's still one of my favorite ones in the series. It just has a lot of stuff to go back to that I think is really cool. So it feels a little fresh each time. And yeah, I mean, the lighting in this game and everything, the first one was creepy for its time, but this one, I mean, you do feel a bit more uncomfortable, and it's more jump scare kind of horror as opposed to more psychologically scary, but it's still pretty effective though. And I'll admit there was a few times more than others that I did jump in this game at certain moments. And there's a particular enemy that's, the way they do them in this game, it definitely keeps you on your toes. It's just, I mean, there was definitely times where I was like a bit on edge, right? And all you can, especially if you have like headset on, you hear like the footsteps coming. You're like, oh crap, here he comes, and all. And then it just, I mean, you're on pins and needles when you're playing this game. And yeah, I mean, like I said, so if you want to play something creepy and all that, this is definitely one of my, one of the best experiences you can have out there. And it's available pretty much on all the modern systems now. Well, outside of did Nintendo get this one? I think there is a cloud version of this game on Nintendo Switch. I think so. I'm not quite sure. But other than that, on most other modern systems, right, I know you can find this. And yeah, I love this game so much. And I'm almost just, really wanting to go through it again to, because I haven't actually beaten the second scenarios in this for either character. So I'd be kind of excited to go through that. Oh, there he is. Oh, yeah, he's he'll kind of wreck your day. But yeah, definitely. If for some reason you haven't checked this game out, check it out. But don't skimp on the PlayStation version if you can somehow play it. It's a good game also as well, and it's a different kind of game because again, it had a different perspective. The controls were different and all, and so it plays differently. And because it's more or less the same template of a game, it's just this one kind of expands on certain things, and obviously it plays differently because of the new perspective. But either one, right? Definitely check it out. Resident Evil 2, definitely an all-timer when it comes to the survival horror genre.
Coming in at number 30 is Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. This game originally came out, well, at least the way I played it was on the original Xbox back in 2003. I believe it came out, I would assume at the same time on PC, but not 100% sure on that. But yeah, was a game from BioWare. And we're getting into the really good stuff now. So any game going, I mean, all the games that I've already talked about here are on my list for a reason, but I mean, really from here on out, we're getting into some stuff that I'm a huge fan of. I mean, this is getting to the really good stuff, right, of my favorite games of all time. And Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic for me was it was a special game as far as the game itself, but then also where I was at in life and all, and how I got to experience this game and who I got to experience it with was what made this game really enjoyable for me to go through. So at the time, I was really into RPGs already, but mainly JRPGs. So Final Fantasies, Phantasy Stars, and all that, right? That's kind of what I was more used to when it came to RPGs. I hadn't really messed around with like more Western PC style RPGs, and it's just, one of them just because I didn't really have a PC to play games on, and so there wasn't a whole lot available to play like on console. And one of the reasons that I got the Xbox, at least what I thought the system was going to be, and I guess it kind of was in a way, where I was like, okay, so we're in the 6th generation. So I had the PlayStation 2, the GameCube, and the Sega Dreamcast. So I was like, okay, that's the system that I'm going to play more, just the regular games that we were used to at the time, which was more Japanese games. Whether if it's platformers or action games or RPGs and all that, right? More, our Japanese games. The Xbox, though, because it was a very American, company and system, that I felt like, well, maybe I can get this system to play kind of some of those games that I've been seeing on PC and all. And so to an extent, it was a bit that. So here's one, for example. And, I'm a fan of Star Wars. I more so the original trilogy. And then to an extent, the prequels as well, too. I can't say I'm, what they've been doing ever since then, I'm not, I guess, the biggest fan of. But at the time, I was really into the prequels. And so then when this game came out, it was around the height of more my Star Wars fandom outside from when I was a child. And so I thought it was interesting that they were making an RPG set in the Star Wars universe. And so I kept seeing a bunch of reviews coming out on this game, and they were talking really highly about it. But I wasn't quite sure about it, though, because I was like, well, it looks like one of those PC RPGs that, I don't know, they just seemed a little too complex for me at the time. But it started getting really great reviews, and I was like, okay, well, this seems something that's kind of cool. Maybe I could get into it. And so at the time, I was working at this warehouse. It was like they were just packaging potato chips, but a few buddies of mine that were there, they also had the Xbox, and so they were also Star Wars fans. And so we decided to, roughly around the time that this game came out, we decided to all get it around the same time. And so we would play through the game, and because the game plays out where you have kind of like a choose your own adventure, where you have a lot of choices that you can make, how you can go through the story, are you being more on the light side or the dark side, and the choices you make, how you customize your character and all that. And so because of that, you're going to have a different playthrough than someone else. And so what was fun about this game, and again, this is during the time frame where I didn't really have a whole lot of people around me that would play video games or that I could talk to about video games. But the fact that they wanted to play this game and all, it just made it for a fun time for, we would play the game, go to work the next day, and then we would talk about the game. Like, oh, what did you, how did you go through this story element, or how did you customize your Jedi, or, things like that. And so I thought it was kind of fun to have those conversations with my buddies at the time, where, again, I was, reaching a point where I just didn't really otherwise have anybody to talk video games with. So that was kind of cool. And so just hearing their stories as far as how they went through the game, and then what I got through the game, because it kind of made it, because you were realizing like, oh, wow, I missed out on a lot of things because I took this choice where you did this choice. And so I thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, it's a game where you kind of make up your story on it in a sense. I mean, it has its overall plot, but again, because you're, the way the dialogue options that you're choosing as you're conversing with the people inhabiting this galaxy can make it a bit unique unto you. And again, because it's Star Wars, you have the whole light side, dark side thing. It's kind of fun to, play around with those options that are dependent on what route you want to go in this game. And so because of that, you're going to have two different endings, which I thought was pretty cool. I will say that the choices are fairly simplistic. There's not a whole lot of like gray morality in the game. You're either a very earnest, good, benevolent person, or you're just kind of a prick, right? But at the time, though, I still felt that it was pretty revolutionary. And what I liked about it too also, and I wish they would do with movies, is that I wish that they would just get out of the Skywalker saga and just do something completely different. Because this game takes place roughly about 4,000 years before the whole, the movies that we know of. And because of that, they had a lot of freedom as far as what they can do with the universe, the characters and all that. Because this is during a time where the Jedi were plentiful. It's called Knights of the Old Republic, right? And just because this is, again, when they were around, they were normal. Where on the more recent movies that we've seen, right, and all, there's only like a handful kind of scattered about, this is one of the game's greatest assets is the story to it. But the combat here is pretty fun too. From my understanding, the way it works is kind of like the roll of the dice thing that you see in Dungeons and Dragons, which I don't understand that completely. But for what it is, though, it's still pretty fun, and I got used to, being able to maneuver through the menus and all that, which at the time, just again, I'm more used to JRPG, so it was a bit different, but I ended up getting used to it. And then again, the whole Star Wars theme then also really hooked me onto it. Like I loved hearing the lightsabers, the gun blasters, and all very reminiscent to the movies. So that was all cool. But yeah, the story is what really hooked me on this game. And it's just one of my, probably, I would say my favorite Star Wars story out there. And there's a certain point in this game that, if you played this game, it's an old game, so I don't think it's too new. But for anybody that has it, I'll just say that there's a certain moment in this game that I was so floored by. I didn't see it coming, and it kind of hits you out of nowhere, right? And just elevates the game to a higher level where you're just like, that is cool. That is so clever. That is so, that was such a twist to the overall narrative that put it on a legendary status. And from that, and ever since then, I've just been like, yep, this is one of my favorite games of all time for sure. If you haven't experienced this game, luckily you can find it on a lot of different systems now where I believe you can get it through the Xbox still, the original Xbox version, but like through the digital storefront. I think it's still available on there, I'm not sure. But then they've recently re-released the game here on the Nintendo Switch, and it's also available like on Android and I believe iOS too. So, they're serviceable enough versions too as well. So, yeah, definitely one of the better RPGs out there. Coming in at number 29 is Snatcher. This game came out in, I believe it would have been 1994, late 1994, I believe, on the Sega CD.
June 6, 1996. A mysterious explosion destroys the Chernobyl research facility near Moscow. Lucifer Alpha.
And this game here, it's very cinematic. Not cinematic, but it's just it's more story driven, right? There's not a whole lot of gameplay to it, so to speak. It's one of those, I guess you can call them like point and click adventures. It does have a little bit of a few action scenes, which in the original Sega CD version, you could play with the, what was it called? The Justifier light gun, I believe. But other than that, though, it's very story based where you have it'll give you a scene, like a graphic of a scene, and then you have some options if you want to explore, or investigate, look at, talk to someone and all that.
So again, not a whole lot of gameplay on it, but just the story to this, the setting. I'm a huge fan of the movie Blade Runner and Terminator, and Hideo Kojima, he was behind this game. So for anyone that likes the Metal Gear Solid games but don't know much, or even the Death Stranding games but don't know much outside of that for Hideo Kojima, this is one of his earlier games here. And if you like his storytelling and all that, you're going to be right at home with this one. It's, he's very much a movie fan. And so he does combine a lot of movies and meshes them into something. This is very much Terminator and Blade Runner, but it's still its own thing though. And I just love it for that, because it just speaks to me in all kinds of ways of two of my favorite properties, and it puts it into its own characters. The main character in this, Gillian Seed, and then a bunch of other characters that he interacts with, and it is very well written. I was actually really surprised with how good the story was when this game first came out, because again, this was in late 1994. I'm pretty sure, maybe early 95. I don't quite recall, but it was, when I played this, I was really amazed by the acting in it, the overall story, the writing, everything just felt really professional. And I was like, wow, is this where video games are going? The acting in it nowadays, right, and all can maybe seem a little hokey, but, again, this is coming from a time where whatever little video or acting there was in video games was pretty horrendous. And so they really got some talent in this, right, and all, to make everything seem fairly believable and all. And again, the soundtrack that you're hearing here, the cyberpunk world, the kind of jazzy music, I'm just here for it. And yeah, this game just it's just, I get very kind of little giddy just at the thought of this game and all that. And I just remember when I first played this, it was one of the first games that I thought, because I played a few games almost back to back where I was like, we're really going somewhere with video games where the storytelling in them can be used really effectively, more so in a lot of ways than say like a movie or a book and all that, because of even though there's not a lot of gameplay in this, but still you still interact with it and all, and that gives it an extra element that really puts you in the world that they're trying to create. And this was one of the games that really started making that obvious to me. And unfortunately, this game, because it was on the Sega CD, it didn't get a whole lot of eyes on it. And because it originally came out on some PC in Japan, I believe, and then there was also, I believe, a TurboGrafx version, and then eventually there was a version on the Sega Saturn and the PlayStation, and maybe some other game systems. But as far as I know, this is the only version that ever came out here in the United States on the Sega CD. And again, another game on the Sega CD, right? That system had some really good games on it. Not a lot, admittedly, but it did have a lot of, the decent amount though, and some of the, for me personally, some of the absolute best too in certain genres. But the music in this is very catchy. It's very Konami-like, I guess, is one way to put it. If you grew up in the 80s and a lot of those movies and all that were coming up back then, when you play this, you'll understand a lot of the references and all that this game has,
I've become a junker.
A junker? Gillian, but why?
Jamie, you know why. It's the only way we can regain our lost memories. Snatcher is the only word that keeps coming back every time we try to remember our past. I have to face them to find out why.
Yes, but I can sense that there is something terrible hidden in our past. And if we remember it, it will destroy us.
Jamie! I'm going now. Jamie!
What? I can't hear you!
Gillian Seed, estimated age 31. 3 years ago, he and his his wife Jamie Seed are taken into protective custody in the Siberian Neutral Zone by the 17th Siberian Investigative Force. Both Gillian and Jamie suffer from severe amnesia. Their memories of events prior to being picked up in Siberia lost in a mysterious mental fog. 2 years ago, after a vain attempt to rebuild their marriage, Jamie and Gillian separate. Following extensive special military training, Gillian is ordered to report to Neo Kobe City as a junker, effective today.
So that's a little setup there. It's, back when this game came out, amnesia in storytelling, at least from what I was used to, wasn't quite as overdone as it eventually ended up becoming. So I really dug it how they did it here in this one. But yeah, just from start to finish, the story is just highly engaging, and even without not a lot of action and everything, just the way it tells its story, the dialogue, the writing to it and everything, the colorful cast of characters, it keeps you hooked. I mean, it's like you're watching a really good mystery story, right? Almost like you're reading like an interactive graphic novel, I guess is one way to put it. So here's kind of where you start the game, right? So this is basically what the game is. It's, you have a scene or like a image there, right, of where you're at. So you have a few options, like you can look, and then you pick what you're looking at, or you're investigating something. The game is funny too, also. It has some funny moments in it. And so part of the game is just, knowing what to look at, how to investigate, how to explore the scene you're in with, the given options there until you can unlock a certain option that allows you to move forward. And so if I try to enter, it's not letting me, so then we'll want to talk to her.
I'm Gillian Seed. I've been assigned to Junker headquarters effective today.
Oh, you're Mr. C. Please forgive me. My name is Mika Slayton. I'm the administrative assistant and operator here at Junker headquarters. Very pleased to meet you.
Yeah, so you just kind of go through the options here until eventually you unlock, again, the next option, right, to move you forward. So, again, it's a very story-heavy game. Yeah, but the story, though, that is in here is just highly engaging, that I just feel it's, worth playing for that. Let's see, I forgot. I'm just trying to find through the options here to... And Gillian, he tries to be a bit of a ladies' man. He's kind of funny. But yeah, the writing in it is really well done. And like I said, right, back in those days, the translation of video games were spotty at best. And so how they got the translation done in this one to be pretty well done. I mean, I don't quite recall of any major, translation issues in this one. It really felt like they had some professionals behind, the scenes on this one to, get the translation done right and all. And, again, it was, I feel like Hideo Kojima just somehow had some pull within the video, or he ended up getting some pull within the video game industry, right, to get a lot of these talents, right, to can help him, get good localization and all that. And probably, again, a lot of it has to do with, his love of like movies and all that. And, that somehow he was able to convince, I guess, the higher ups and all that, right, to hire talented actors and translators and all that stuff. Okay, here we go.
Mr. Seed?
Gillian's fine. You can call me Gillian, Mika.
Okay, Gillian. I'll open the main door and show you around headquarters.
But yeah, I mean, it's not like a walking simulator like that we have nowadays, because you're not really doing much actual walking with the controller. But it is, in a sense, kind of like those games, right, where, again, it just plays out more with the story of it and all. But for me, like, if the story is highly engrossing and you still feel very into the world, right, that the story that it's telling you, then that's what makes, some of these games, worthy of being on my list. Like, for example, the What Remains of Edith Finch, The Walking Dead, season 1, and then this one here. It's just, I'm a fan of a good story. And this is definitely, for me, one of the best video game stories that is out there. And for me, it still holds up pretty well. A lot of it, again, has to do with just me being a big fan of, like, this kind of setting. But I'm, hey, you know what? It's my list, right? And that's why this game is on here. But the only way really you can play this game is just buying the original, but the original is crazy expensive. So if you were to try to seek out a physical copy, it's kind of one of those golden goose games for retro video game collectors out there, because it's kind of hard to find and it's expensive. And I used to have a copy of this and I sold it, and I want to kick my own ass for doing that. But, just at the time I was trying to get rid of some stuff, and and I emulate games a lot now, right? So I have a lot of different ways of playing this, but I still would have wished I would have kept that original copy. But either way, though, like I said, emulation is probably your best route to get this game. I really wish they would re-release it, especially with, Death Stranding having some popularity, the Metal Gear games kind of making a bit of a comeback. Why not, introduce these games, back into the world? But I think with the fallout from Konami and Hideo Kojima, that might be a part of the reason why. And also because, again, these games, when they first came out, they weren't that popular. So, but if you do end up playing this one and you like it, there is a sort of spiritual successor, I guess you can say, to it, called Policenauts, which kind of plays out the same way also with this style. I haven't really gone through that game all the way through, and it's a game that was only released in Japan, but, again, through emulation and all, and there are English patches out there, it might be worthwhile to play through that game, because I'm still wanting to go through that game as well, too. But for what it is, or for this one here, definitely check it out if you're a fan of this kind of setting. Coming in at number 28 is God of War 3. I just want to let this little part play out, because this is pretty amazing.
Come to be the absolute measure of strength and power. Now, on this day, that power is to be tested. The mortal Kratos seeks to destroy all that I have wrought. Put aside the petty grievances that have splintered us for so long. We will unite. We will stand together. And I will wipe out this blade. Olympus will prevail.
For me, still, this intro is the coolest ever, as far as like a very bombastic, action-packed, in-your-face, way to start off a game. Because this is how the game starts. And granted, it's picking up right where part 2 left off. Like, there's like, it leads right into it. But holy crap, I mean, this was when I first experienced this on the PlayStation 3. So backing up a bit. So this game came out, 2010, I believe, on the PlayStation 3. And this was the last game that I went to a midnight release on, and probably actually maybe the only one. Maybe I went to another one. I don't quite recall, but this one here, I was living with my brother at the time, and we were both really excited for this game. As prior to the game's release, they released a cool soundtrack too, where not music that's in the game, but inspired by the game by a lot of different heavy metal bands like Trivium and I forgot who else. So we were getting hyped up for this game as we were seeing like the previews of it and all that. And I mean, we were big fans of part 1 and 2. And so now with this game coming out on the new hardware at the time, the PlayStation 3, we were just like, let's go, what do we got going on here? And so once we started seeing this, and I mean, just look at this. These titans scaling Mount Olympus, and then the Greek gods up there ready to take them on. And you're kind of in the middle of it with these incredible graphics, which this still holds up incredibly well too. And it was just something to behold, where I'm like, not even Hollywood movies can do something this good. I mean, it was the PlayStation 3 firing on all cylinders. They really made this hardware sing, and the director Stig Assume, I forgot his name, but I mean, because each of the main God of War games, there was David Jaffe did the first one, Corey Balrog did the second one, and then this one had Stig on it, and all of them just did an amazing job with directing this game, and all in their team, how they were able to construct these scenarios, right, and all, especially the intros where they're so over the top, so epic in scale that you're just, your jaw's on the floor with what you're seeing on here. I mean, and you're playing this, right? And that it plays really well and all too. I mean, it definitely made for cinematic gaming where it was fun, creative, it's some of the best that the video games could look like at the time when this came out. And because again, this came out in 2010, so this is a 15-year-old game. And I mean, just it still stuns me. This opening is still so incredible. I mean, I get goosebumps every time. Like, just look at this. It's just insane. But it's not just the intro too. The whole game is really excellent too. It's just that it really opens up like crazy, and it slows down a bit, right, and all as the game gets going. But there's still a lot of cool moments in this game, a lot of big set piece moments, and just the general hack and slash gameplay has never been better for me, in my opinion. And ultimately, I really like the new God of War games. The one that came out in 2018, and then God of War Ragnarok. But, that went a different style, and it's really cool. But when it comes down to it, I think I just prefer this version of God of War. This is the Kratos that I really like. When he's angry as hell, and just ready to take on these gods, and the set pieces, and the boss fights, and the enemies that you fight, and the whole... I like the Norse mythology. I think that's really cool, but I'm just more of a fan of like the Greek mythology. And it's just... makes for just an incredible series of action games, and it never got better for me than this right here. But part 1 and 2, and even Chains of Olympus and Ghost of Sparta, the two games on the PSP, and even to an extent God of War Ascension, all of them are really great. I mean, they're incredible hack and slash games, some of the best out there that you'll ever play. Kratos is just an amazing character, definitely one of the PlayStation brand's best characters, voiced by T.C. Carson, who he doesn't he just really channels into his the angry voice of this guy. And it fits the game really well. And again, there's not a whole lot of depth to Kratos. He's just kind of, like I said, I think I said in the previous God of War little clip, that he's just sort of a vessel for you to take out your anger on. But it works really well for that. And again, the stories are pretty cool in this, especially how this one ends. I thought it was a really good cap to the series, this original trilogy. But he doesn't have a whole lot of story arc, I guess, and all, but you don't really need them too well. So what you're given there is cool enough. Cool, let's go. Let's just let's do some killing of some Greek gods here. But yeah, just such an incredible game. And if for some reason you haven't played this, you can get it on the PlayStation 4 version, which is ups up the frame rate and all, and I think the resolution a little bit. And then it's you can play it on the PlayStation 5 as well too. So definitely check this one out.
coming in at number 27 is Lunar Silver Star Story. So Lunar Silver Star Story. This game is just such a beautiful RPG, and it's one of the games that I would recommend to anybody that wants to, say, like if somebody that's maybe not familiar with RPGs or JRPGs in particular and wanted to start getting into them. This is probably the game that one of the games that I would recommend for them to play through. And it's just because it's a game that has a fairly simplistic story, but it's a very captivating story where it's telling the simple tale of Alex here, your main character, that he aspires to be, or I should say maybe not aspires from the beginning, but he looks up to a dragon master called Dyne, and he's here at his monument here, and wants to go on adventures and all that, but he's just a kid from a low village, a small village, like he's saying here at the start. But the adventure that it plays out to and all is just very charming, very easy to get into, nothing complex about it, but very heroic too. And it definitely gives you that feeling like you're on an adventure, right? You're trying to, you're good versus evil, in the most classic of sense of it. And along the way, you're going to meet some really colorful companions. Your little buddy there that you got and all, he's just a very, how should I say? He's just a very good companion to have, and makes the adventure just very lighthearted. And that's another thing that I like about it too. Also, is that it doesn't take itself too seriously. I like a very dramatic story, and I think especially as this list goes on, you'll see that some of the games that I have on here are games that tend to have more of a more serious, mature tone to them and all. But I do enjoy having a more lighthearted story and all, like this one, for example, where you can just kind of have fun with it. You're really gonna get into the characters and all, and it's funny too. Also, there's times in this game where actually it made me laugh a lot, and it's just such a great little game for that. And so the version that I'm playing here is a more recent one that came out for the remastered version for the Lunar Collection that came out on the modern consoles not too long ago. But Lunar has had a lot of different versions come out of it. So I'm going to back up a little bit here and I'll kind of go through the different versions. And so originally, the Lunar Silver Story came out on the Sega CD. And I forgot when it came out in Japan, and I don't quite 100% recall when it came out in the United States, but it would have been in the United States roughly about 1993. And so again, it was on the Sega CD, which, I'm going to make a video at some point about the Sega CD just because I feel like that system is criminally underrated. But it came out on there originally, and it was translated by a company called Working Designs. And so they were known for bringing a lot of RPGs over here to the States, and the Genesis or the Sega really benefited from that because they brought some of their more of the major games that they brought out to the States were on Sega systems, and Lunar was probably their more crown jewel of the ones that they brought out. And after it came out there though on the Sega CD, then eventually the game got a re-release on the PlayStation. Well, Sega Saturn in Japan, and then on the PlayStation in Japan, but also that one came out in the United States. Also, the translation was done by Working Designs, because the game was originally developed by a company called Game Arts, and I believe like a sub-company of theirs called Studio Alex, I believe. But the PlayStation version it was another remake that I thought was really well done, where they really upped the graphics a lot. They expanded the story more, just made it more, there's just more to the game, and a lot of the additions that they made I felt were worthwhile. And they changed the music, which I'll get into that a little bit later, but overall just really made it for, you can say more or less a better game than the original Sega CD version. Excuse me. And so this new remaster is based off of that version there, of the PlayStation version. It's more or less the same game. It's just with widescreen support, a few quality of life enhancements, and they did change the voice acting on it as well too and all. But otherwise, you're more or less, it's based off of that version there. But Lunar also had a version on the Game Boy Advance called Lunar Legend. I played a little bit about that one, and it adds a few new story elements. It's kind of sort of based on this one here too, only you don't get the voice acting. The music is not as good since it's not, CD quality. And I don't, it seemed like a more simplified version of Lunar from what I remember. And then there's also another version called Lunar Silver Star Story Harmony, and that one came out on the PSP. And what I've played of that one, I actually do want to go through that one there, because that one changes the graphics a bit more, and I like the style to it, and it adds new story elements to it as well too. So that's why I'm kind of curious to play through that one. But the music, I believe, is more or less like this one here and all, and the overall plot, I guess. Again, it adds a few new things from little bit that I played of it and all, but yeah, that's another version of the game too. So yeah, there was a lot of Lunar that came out there, and so which one is on this place here at this spot here on my what did I have it on again? Let's see, for my number 27. It's kind of I guess just all the variations of Lunar, because the Sega CD version, the original one, it doesn't have as nice graphics, and it it still has random encounters and all, and it's a bit more simplistic than, say, some of the remakes that came out of it. But but I hated that they changed the music. Well, I don't want to say hate, because I do like this new soundtrack, but the one for the Sega CD version is just such an incredible score. One of my favorite soundtracks of all time in a video game. And they changed it though, and it kind of bugs me. And the new soundtrack is fine. If you listen to this soundtrack, or if you only play this version, don't play the Sega CD version, then you'll be fine. You'll be like, this is a great soundtrack. I don't know what you're talking about. The Sega CD version, though, to me, it was just a much better score. And I could be wrong, but I think it's from the same composer. So for whatever reason, they changed it, but it is what it is. But other than that, for the most part, the remakes and all are, they're just better. It's just better graphics, more story elements and all that. And then, with this new remaster version that came out, I think it's fine. I think it's perfectly, it's a good remake or remaster of the games, again, of the PlayStation 1 version of the game. And so since it's the more accessible one and all, this is the one I would definitely recommend this one, right? If I'm recommending just Lunar as a whole. And then you get part 2 also too, which is a really great game as well too. But yeah, I just, the anime style characters on it and all, I just used to love these designs. I used to draw characters a lot back when I was younger and try to make them kind of manga style and all. And so this game was a big inspiration for that there. I just love the designs of them, the look of them, the color schemes that they use and all. And yeah, I'm a big fan of the character designs in this game.
enjoy the morning at Dine's monument? Or were you planning more silly adventures with Ramus?
Yeah, and also another thing too about this game is that it probably has, if not my favorite, one of my favorite love stories in a video game. It's just really the relationship. It's very cute. It's very innocent. It's very inspiring in a way. You don't know where just what ends up happening in the game, and then just their roles of how their character arcs play out in the game too. Also, where they have both their individual story arcs, so it's not just a simple, prince goes out to save the princess kind of story. I thought it was just really well done, and both of them definitely some of my more favorite characters in RPGs. And so yeah, I mean, like I said, if I'm just wanting to say, okay, someone that's wanting to get into JRPGs and all, just in general, that's not just Final Fantasy and all, this would probably be one that I would recommend as one of the top ones here. I love this game. I'm such a fan of it since the Sega CD days and all, and then with all the different versions that have come out, it's a game that I just love going to back from time to time, and it just puts me in such a good mood whenever I play this game. And little side story here, I'm going to tell a little personal story too, also on how sometimes video games can get you through some tough times. And so, again, this is a love story, right? So back when I was in, this would have been 9th grade. So I didn't play the Sega CD version of the game until 1995. And I remember that because during the time, I had a girlfriend at the time, and it was my first girlfriend that I had. And so I was a bit, I was a big introvert, and also I wasn't too much like into trying to get women and all. I mean, I liked women. It's just, I just wasn't very good with with trying to talk to them or, trying to get a girlfriend and all that. But one thing led to another. And so I ended up, having this girl that she was my girlfriend for a bit. But as we dated for a little bit, and she ended up cheating on me. And so at a pretty young age, I got very cynical about like love and relationships and all that because of this experience here. What happened was I had been talking to her on the phone, and so she told me that she was just going to just stay the night at home, because I think it was on a Friday or so on a weekend. And so somehow, though, I got word that she was potentially seeing someone else. And so where I was living at the time, there was a skating rink, like literally like 3 buildings down. There was like 2 houses and then the skating rink. So I was like, I would get there like in 3 minutes walking almost. And somehow, I don't know, I forgot how it all played out, but basically I got word that she might have been there. And so I walked over there and I kind of peeked through the doors, and sure enough, I saw her skating there with another guy. And so when I saw that, it just broke my heart, because again, I was just someone that I was trying to, talk to women, trying to, and so I had this girlfriend, and she was my girlfriend for a few months already. And so I was just trying to play like the nice guy to her and all. But ultimately I just learned pretty quickly, right, that's not, that if you do that, you're going to be kind of left out in the cold. And sure enough, right. And also, anyway, so I found out that she was cheating on me, and I was very distraught. It was the first time I had my heart broken, and I was feeling really crappy just about just what I had seen and all that, and just, again, relationships in general. I was very upset at myself because I felt like I was no good, and all, again, being a big introvert and all that. And so what kind of helped me get through that was, so I had mentioned that there was on the Sega CD, or the Sonic CD little clip that I played of, on my ranking here, that it was me, my brother, and then this other 2 brothers that we had that were really good friends of ours that also had the Sega CD. So they had let me borrow this game, Lunar. So that's how I played Lunar back in the day, was that they bought the game and they would let me borrow it. And I borrowed it from them, a handful of times back then. And so it was the first time, though, that I had played this game. And so when after that happened, I remember going home and I was really frustrated and upset. I just locked myself in the room and I just started playing this game.
the Sega CD version of it. And I just played it, I remember, for hours and hours and hours and hours. And I got pretty far into the game, and just seeing their little story here play out with, Alex and Luna, and how simplistic and charming, and, how much they're into each other and all that, how that all played out and everything. It just it helped me set my mind and my heart at ease, that, to try not to be so cynical about everything, that, just because that happened to me and all that time doesn't mean that, all relationships are like that, or that it's always going to be like that. And so it definitely kept my hopes up for that. And, like nowadays I feel very blessed that I have a beautiful wife that that I very much love and all. And so I feel like I found my little Alex and Luna love story. As cheesy as it sounds and all that, right? And all, but again, it's just one of the things that really helped me get through that time frame, and and why I have a very special soft spot for this game here. Just a very cool little game. Definitely check it out if you haven't already. Coming in at number 26 is Uncharted 2: Among Thieves. This game came out on the PlayStation 3 originally back in 2009. This game was developed by Naughty Dog, which was from Crash Bandicoot and Jak and Daxter, which each one of them had already an entry in this on my top 100. But here they really found their cinematic footing on the PlayStation 3 with the Uncharted series. And what these Uncharted games are, it's more action with some, and platforming with some puzzle elements to it. But I say cinematic gaming also, where that sounds almost like a bad thing, but it's just makes the game so much fun to go through, and where it really, we were already saying this from before, right? And all, where it was like games were getting more cinematic and like you're playing a movie. This one, I feel like these series, especially with this one here, number 2, where it really made that cool, like it's almost like you're playing a movie, because the gameplay is really fun. It has some fun gunplay and all, not the best, but it's definitely fun. The platforming on it is really fun too, as well too, where you're sort of hanging on ledges and jumping from one to the ledge to the other and all, and it has some clever puzzles in it too and all. But then the set pieces, the graphics, and all the places that you explore, and then the banter between your characters and all, just and then a lot of the cinematic moments that you go through, it just makes it for just a very fun action game that it really rivals a lot of, like, again, Hollywood's best, and you're just having fun playing it too. And Nathan Drake, he's just such a charmer. He's one of my favorite characters in a video game. He's just a fun dude, and a lot of his quips and all, and his interactions with Sully and some of the other characters in this, it just makes for a fun time. And he's voiced by Nolan North, who has he's just was made for the role. And so the gameplay, right, it mixes in a little bit of stealth as well too. Also, you can just go guns blazing. So it's cool that it gives you those options there. And because otherwise the game is pretty linear for sure. And so this is more of like I said, this is more of an action game instead of, where you're constantly, having some kind of, where the exploration on it, even for being a game that's about exploring, as far as the story goes and all, it's pretty limited. So again, you can go on an off-beaten path like here, just grab small little treasures and all. But for the most part, it's definitely more of an action game. But it's definitely one of the best too. Also, the music is very cinematic. It just feels like you're playing like a modern day Indiana Jones, and I say that in the best way possible. It took the inspirations from the right places and made it its own thing. Because you can almost, at one point when part 1 came out, it was being referred to as Dude Raider, reference to Tomb Raider with the games from Lara Croft, and those games are great. But I feel like this one, as far as the action side of it, just really stepped it up a notch here. And the PlayStation 3, when it got going, it came out with some amazing exclusives, and this was one of them, right? And probably one of the best ones here also. It's just they're just such fun games here, and they got so popular that there was even a movie made out of it, which And the movie was, I don't think I even finished watching it, and it's all right. It's nothing to write home about. So I would say that if you're very casual video game player, you haven't gone through the series, but you saw the Uncharted movie and weren't too impressed with it, don't let that steer you from this game, because this game has a lot more personality than that movie did. I trust me on that one. It really does. And it just, you're just going to have more of a fun time playing this game and all than watching the movie. Again, if you're willing to give like a video game a try. And yeah, just the scenarios in this that you go through are just really beautiful. And what I liked about the second one is that it really varies it up, because the first one you were mainly stuck for the most part in the jungle with some underground locations and all. But this one here, it gives you that sort of Indiana Jones, almost James Bond vibe, where you're going from, just globetrotting, right, and all as you're trying to solve a mystery, right? And the story, it's not anything crazy, it's just your typical Indiana Jones kind of plot, but it's fun though, and it's really well written. And this is still where the great Amy Hennig was involved in this one with the storytelling, and she was always one of my more favorite video game story writers. She's great, and this one I'm pretty sure she still had a pretty big part in writing this script here. And so they were calling it like a pulp kind of fiction adventure kind of story. And yeah, it's just a fun time. Have fun with these characters, and it's just they're just fun. I know I'm saying that a lot, but I guess I don't know how else to say it and all other than you'll just have a smile on your face playing this game. The stages are just so full of life as well too, with all the little details. And this is a 2009 game. It definitely, there's the remastered versions that came out on the PlayStation 4, which is compatible on the PlayStation 5, and those for me are the versions to play. They run at 60 frames per second, and when again in an action game, I just prefer that much more. But even the PlayStation 2 version looked really great too, also for the time. So however you play this game, I mean, it's definitely a looker. But the whole series is really good too as well. So don't feel like it's just part 2, right? That's the only good one. Part 1 is pretty good still, in my opinion. Part 3 is really good as well too, and part 4 also. And for a lot of people, part 3 and 4 could be the best one too. But this one seems to be the more favorite, and I agree. Part 2, with a lot of game series, right? The second one just always seems to be where they really got it right, and that's definitely the case in this one. But yeah, Nathan Drake, Uncharted, and all, awesome games. Coming in at number 25 is The Elder Scrolls V: Skyrim. Originally came out in 2011, I'm pretty sure, and that was on the PlayStation 3, the Xbox 360, and I'm pretty sure the PC as well too. It has since then been released on pretty much everything else, as there's an ongoing joke that this game will eventually be playable on a refrigerator. But the game's popularity was just immense. Bethesda, if I'm still struggling to say that. So this is the second game that I have on my list from them, the other one being Fallout 3. But they were really earning a reputation here, right, with the Skyrim games that they already had up to this point, especially with Oblivion, and then Fallout 3. And then also, New Vegas was developed by Obsidian, but I feel like Bethesda sort of laid down a foundation for it. And so then when we got to Skyrim here, I feel like this is sort of like their magnus opus, where it's just so incredibly immersive to be in this world here. And this game has stood the test of time, I think, for a lot of people. That there are some people that I've heard that this is all they'll play is just Skyrim. And there is so much content and life in this game that really you could play this game for a very long time and continue to find new things in it. So if you want to play a game that you just want to get lost in, just for sake of escapism, where you just want to be transported away somewhere else and all for a while, this is absolutely a game that that will fill that need there. It's just so full of, I mean, there's just so much to do in this game, and like many open world games, you can kind of hightail it right on to do the main mission. But there's just it, but it's not just that there's side stuff to do, right? I mean, that's a part of it. Oh, look at that big old elk there, right? But it's also that you want to do it too. And that's where some of these games get it so right, where because you are so involved in the world that they've created here, that you want to explore everything. You want to see, like, what's in that tower over there? I don't know. Let's go check it out. And you get so lost, where you deviate so much from the main story, and just because you've just become an inhabitant of this world. And it's just so engrossing to get lost in here that, it you just get, it's almost spellbinding. And then you see a dragon up there. and that's the cool thing about like this game, right? And all is that, you'll just be walking around, and then all of a sudden something like, you see this big old dragon coming about. And so it's the unscripted moments that really makes this game special. And you'll just have a lot of your own personal sort of, incredible moments that you'll make in this game that make it very personable to you. And that's, I think that's why a lot of people really keep coming back to this game. And then outside of that, you're customizing your own character, you're, you're outfitting them with whatever armor and weapons you can find, and, playing it to your style, so to speak. Like if you want to be just kind of a tank, or do you want to be more of a spellcaster, or do you want to be more of a thief, things like that, right? It really makes it unique unto you. And by this point I had already been playing some Western RPGs, and one of the things that really separate them from, say, like, JRPGs is the more customization that you can do for your character. Not that you can't do that in some JRPGs and all that, but I think it's just more in Western RPGs where it started becoming more popular anyways. And, again, the Elder Scrolls games were really good for that. Now, honestly, with this game, I didn't play it when it first came out. I knew all about it, obviously. I mean, the game was a big old deal, and I'd already liked Oblivion and Fallout 3. I just never bought it for whatever reason, and I think it was just because I wanted to beat Oblivion first and Fallout 3, which... spoiler, I still haven't been Oblivion. but eventually I ended up getting this game, and I got it on the Switch, I believe, because at the time I'd gotten the Switch, and I was like, oh, cool, it's you can play this in handheld and all that, and so I thought it was a perfect place to play Skyrim. And so I started playing it there for the first time, and yeah, I mean, sure enough, I got sucked into this world, and I still haven't beaten it, but I got quite a ways into it. I'm playing just a save file here on the Xbox version on Game Pass, because I've been messing around with this version, and I just like the way it looks here also with the 60 frames per second. But yeah, I mean, what else is there to be said about this game? This is on one of the most popular games of all time, one of the most respected games of all time. And even, with these games, it does come with a certain level of jank, which is kind of expected in, Bethesda games like this. But even though it's just, it really immerses you to another world, and it's incredible. And it's the magic of video games. I still feel that, they can continue doing this to us, and which is why so many of us, just, enjoy this hobby so much, because it's like the only way we can really do something like this, where almost like we're going back in time or into a portal to another world, and how much it draws you in is very, very incredible, with the amazing graphics, the music, the sound effects, the creativity of creating these worlds, and the lore behind everything and all. And it really is amazing. And it's just, when I play something like this and all, and I just, the other one day I was playing this game, and it was it was late at night, and I was just exploring a little bit, and I ended up going up this mountain. As I was trying to find a path up to the I forget what it's called, the where the graybeards are at, I believe. I forgot. But anyways, it's up this mountain, and it was in the nighttime, and it was kind of quiet and all. You could just hear the wind breezing and the snow up there and all. And then I looked up to the sky, and you see those what is it called, auroras or whatever they're called up in the sky. And I was just staring up there, just looking at it, and I just put the controller down for a little bit, just let the camera pan around a bit, and with the music playing in the background, that was very kind of soft, very atmospheric, and it gave me a sense of like almost like you're there, and it was it was incredible. Just one of those games that just very, I don't know, it's incredible. I keep saying incredible, but it's just very. It just blows my mind each time on what they've been able to accomplish. And this is from a game that's what 14 years old now. And granted, I mean, a game like this takes forever to make. The Elder Scrolls 6 is still possibly in development. Who knows whenever that will come out. But when something like this does come out and it's really well made and all, it really is something to behold. But yeah, the Elder Scrolls 5 Skyrim, one of the all-time greats. Coming in at number 24 is Red Dead Redemption 2. This game came out back in 2018, and came out on the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and I believe also, I don't know if it came out at the same time on PC on this one, actually. It got some Game of the Year awards, but there was some heavy hitters during that year between this one and God of War also that came out too during this year, Spider-Man as well too. But it's one of Rockstar's most ambitious games up until, the juggernaut of Grand Theft Auto 6 that comes out next year, supposedly. But yeah, but up until this point, I mean, this game is, I will still say that this is another game that a lot of meat on the bones. I mean, this game is very, this is a big fat juicy steak of a game as far as like stuff to do in it, content, production value, everything about this game, right? I mean, it was there's a whole lot to it. There was a lot of money spent on this game, and you can definitely tell. I mean, the game looks absolutely incredible. Just at a first glance, it may not quite be the most amazing game that I've ever seen, but when you really start looking at the details of everything and all, then at that point it does pretty much become that. Really, the only thing that kind of holds it back a little bit for me is just on console anyways, where it only runs at 30 frames per second. But other than that, the detail to this world, how alive everything feels and all, and the detail of the characters and the way, you leave footprints in the snow and how your clothing interacts with everything. And it's all these little details that come together to form something that looks very stunning, almost lifelike. And it truly is a remarkable achievement in just technicality of how, again, video games are made. It's another game that you can sort of get yourself lost in, where, you can just play this game for hours and hours and hours, and really just, this will be your home if you just want like one game, right, to live in, so to speak. Because again, it's kind of like Skyrim before this that I had on my list. It's just, there's a lot to this game, and you won't be done with it anytime soon. It took me a while to beat this game finally, but it's fun all the way through. It's incredible writing, an amazing story. The acting is some of the best you'll ever hear in a video game, which is, I mean, it's, I mean, we're at the point now where the acting in video games and the stories and all that, it can not only be on par with like the best that Hollywood has, but even in a lot of times surpass it too. I mean, we're at that point. That happened some years ago. And this is one example, right, of just an amazing story and everything about it. I mean, the actor that plays your main character, Arthur Morgan, just does an incredible job. And yeah, I mean, it's just so well acted, well done, and all. And the game itself, I mean, it's really fun. It's the missions that you do in this game are very unique and varied. So you're going to be doing a lot of different things. So that way, because again, it's a long game, so you're going to be here for a while. So they did a pretty good job of making things feel very varied and that you're not doing the same thing over and over again. But a lot of the fun also comes in just living in this world, just a lot of the different side things that you do, exploring the world and all the little different missions you can do or the little tasks you can do that just keeps you hooked on this, where even if you want to do the main story, even then that'll take you a long time, but you'll want to do a lot of the side stuff and all that because you want to know these characters. You want to know more about this world you're in, and that's a big part of the fun of a lot of these open world games that get it right. As you can see, I'm starting to have several of them now on my list, and it's because I just every single one of them that I've had on this list that's like an open world game, it's they just do such a good job of bringing you into their world. And I do feel, like I said, right, and all that, sometimes I feel like there are too many open world games and all, but you just can't deny that when they do get it right. I mean, it's I mean, just look at that, just the way he's pulling that wire there. And I don't know for sure. Obviously, I didn't live in this time, and I'm not a Wild West historian, but it seems like a lot of the stuff that they use is pretty authentic to a lot of the equipment that they had back then. Which is another cool thing about this is the what feels like the authenticity of like the guns, the equipment, the clothing, and everything. I mean, it seems like it's pretty spot on, right, and all to what it was back then. Again, I don't know that for sure, but it seems like that anyways, or at least it's the effect is very believable. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of Bill Morgan, you're kind of a dick, but or not Bill Moore. What's his name? Whatever his name is, Bill something. But yeah, it's the story though that is in this game. I mean, it's definitely one of the best that I've experienced in a video game. So this is so it's part 2, but it's a prequel to Red Dead Redemption, the first part, and so it takes place some years before that first one. So it's kind of interesting to go back in time, right, and all to see what happened to the in the events prior to the first game, and how they both connect together is pretty cool. It definitely. Let's see, what am I doing here? Item. All right. Oh, oops! Did I do that right? There we go. But yeah, I mean, the story in this game, again, with it's the plot, the writing, the characters, and all that brings it all home to just something that is highly dramatic, very funny at times, also, very action packed, a lot of heartfelt moments too, as well, and a lot of insightful character moments as well too. There's just so much to this game and all. I mean, it's outside of Unforgiven, which for me is just an amazing Western movie. This is probably one of my favorite Western stories that I've been privileged to participate to some extent, or interact with, at least in a video game form. But I mean, you got to do a lot of stuff that you would kind of want to do, like in a Wild West. Like here we're robbing a train, and yeah, it's just the missions are very clever, and what really impressed me, because it is such a long game and there's so much to do in this, but the amount of like differences in the missions that you can do was pretty impressive. So, yeah, I mean, it's a lot of stuff to do in this game, and it's definitely it'll keep you engaged throughout its very long runtime. Coming in at number 23 is Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater. This game originally came out on the PlayStation 2 back in 2004. And it was probably one of, if not my favorite games that came out in that year, which was a very excellent year for video games. And there was a lot of stuff that was coming out around the time frame that this one came out, like Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, Halo 2, two games that I already have on this list, and a bunch of other ones. But this was probably the one that stood out the most for me during that time frame. Now, Metal Gear Solid 3 is part 3 in the Metal Gear Solid series, obviously, but the story takes place, though, before those. So where Metal Gear Solid and Metal Gear Solid 2 took place in more modern times, this one goes back to, I think, the 60s. And so it tells the story of what happened back then. And without getting into spoilers or anything, I just remember that made it really intriguing for me. Like, oh, we're going back. That's interesting. And so it puts you in this jungle setting for a good majority of the game. And so because of that, it added a new gameplay element for survival. Where you're hunting for food and camouflaging as well too, and all of that just made it for really expanded on the game mechanics of it, because it took from the new game mechanics that Metal Gear Solid 2 had, and now you're able to do new things here, right, with the whole jungle setting and all that, which I thought was just really fun. Made it kind of like let me live out my Rambo fantasies and all. So I thought that was kind of cool, and the sound effects of this game too as well, I just thought even to this day, I still think are some of the best usage of them. With you hear the birds chirping in the background, all the different just wildlife in this jungle and all, just really makes it feel like you're in this jungle. And it just really made it for an immersive experience to as you're going through here and all that, where you're not only have to be aware of like the enemy, but also just just nature as well too, and learning to hunt for food and all that to keep your stamina up and all that. And so it made it, the survival elements of the game where it made it fun, where it wasn't too overbearing or too overly complicated and all that. And so that's what I really enjoyed about it and all. Again, this was Hideo Kojima, for me, what I feel was during one of his prime times for, video game designs and all. And yeah, just definitely a fun game to play. Just the way you can utilize your terrain and all to your advantage to either sneak away from the enemy or to attack them and all. It just opened up a lot of different options, right, and all how you can attack your enemies. And for that reason there, it's one of my, Metal Gear Solid game, right, that I place towards the higher end of my favorite video games of all time. But then also, I mean, just like with, the previous Metal Gear Solid games, just has an excellent story to it. And I love Metal Gear Solid 2. I already talked about that game before. But, admittedly, the story can be a little bit convoluted and all. And so this one just kind of goes back a little bit back to like telling a more... I mean, Metal Gear Solid games are going to have a very complex story, right? There's a lot going on with them within the plot itself, the characters and all that. This one, though, it's a bit more simplistic, though. And so I think because of that, people really liked it. And it, I mean, it has really great enemies. Your teammates and all are really well written and all, really well acted. David Hayter, he's in top form in this game as well, too. To me, still my, the voice of Snake still, right, for me. And, there's a snake. Oop. All right. And just the top-notch performances all around. And it also has one of my favorite villains in a movie. Or in a movie, what am I talking about? In a game. And it's just a great role, I feel. And just again, the overall story arc and everything, just
the characters in this are just very top notch and all. And I am going to play a part of this game here where it'll kind of show you sort of where the story goes in it on it. Let me just a sec here while I get this set up here. Okay, I believe I go up here and then I get this, and then I think it triggers a codec call. So it's a bit lengthy, but again, I just really enjoyed this.
I see you've retrieved your backpack, Snake. To equip a weapon, it's necessary to take it out of your backpack. In the survival viewer, choose Weapon from the backpack. Your available weapons will be displayed in a window in the upper left. From that list, choose the weapon you want to equip and press the Enter button. For other equipped items, just do the same thing from Item.
Got it. Use the survival viewer backpack.
Yep, that's right. Survival is fundamental to this mission. After you've been out in the field for a while, your stamina will start to drop. If your stamina gets too low, it'll affect your performance. You won't be able to shoot accurately, for example, and your wounds won't heal as smoothly. Keep an eye on your stamina so you don't run out. To recover lost stamina, you can hunt for local flora and fauna. You can use either your tranquilizer gun or your knife to hunt.
My only weapon is a Mark 22 Hush Puppy tranquilizer gun.
That's right, it's been fitted with its own suppressor. However, the suppressor will deteriorate every time you fire. Once its durability reaches 0, the noise suppression effect will be gone. So don't get too trigger happy with it. The suppressor's durability is shown in the icon. Any weapons and equipment beyond what you're carrying now, you'll have to find as you go.
I have to find my own weapons and equipment? Whose crazy idea was this anyway?
Solo covert actions are standard Fox operating procedure. You can't leave any traces of your presence. No weapons, equipment, footprints, sweat, or bodily waste. The same goes for bullets and cartridges, too. Your presence in enemy territory is already a violation of international conventions of warfare. There aren't supposed to be any American soldiers in Russia. It could spark an international incident. You can't let anyone see you. You can't let the enemy know you're there. This is a stealth mission. You're a ghost, Snake, in every sense of the word. There'll be no rescue if you're captured. The military and US government will deny any involvement in the affair.
Then I'll just have to take care of myself, huh?
I'm afraid so. You've been given a fake death pill for that purpose. SAS guidelines stipulate that soldiers on covert ops like this one be issued a potassium cyanide capsule. Tape it to your body so you can take it when you need to.
How generous of you.
Use it if you're taken prisoner by the enemy. It will send you into a state of false death for a short time.
Fooling them into thinking that I'm really dead. So how do I come back to life?
Just take the revival pill.
You mean that thing they put in my tooth before the mission?
That's the one. But be careful. If you remain in a state of false death for too long, nothing will be able to bring you back. Remember that.
I'll keep it in mind. You said this was a solo mission, right?
Right.
I guess that means I can't count on any reinforcements.
Correct. The mission rests entirely in your hands.
A real one-man army.
Relax. There's a support team ready to back you up over the radio.
Who?
I'll introduce them to you. This time, survival is of utmost importance. The first member of the support team will be in charge of monitoring your physical condition, acting as a medic, so to speak, as well as recording your mission data. She's a member of Fox as well, and she's here on the gunship with me.
She?
Hello, Snake. I'm paramedic. Nice to meet you.
Paramedic.
As in a medic who comes in by parachute.
Aren't you going to tell me your real name?
Are you going to tell me yours, Mr. Snake?
My name, huh? It's John Doe.
And they call you Jack for short. You're a regular Captain Nemo.
A name means nothing on the battlefield. After a week, no one has a name. What's your name?
Jane Doe.
Very funny.
I wasn't joking, but I'll tell you my name only if you manage to make it back alive. My frequency is 145.73.
She's also in charge of recording your mission data. Whenever you want to save, send a message over the reserved save frequency, 140.96.
So saving lets me record my mission data.
That's right. It also records the state of your health.
Good to know.
There's one more person I want to introduce you to, Snake. Speaking of snakes, you remember the boss, don't you? A legendary soldier and your mentor. Actually, it was the boss that got the DCI's authorization in the first place. She's going to be serving as Fox's mission advisor.
Boss is?
She also helped me plan this mission. She and I were at SAS together.
Jack, is that you? How many years has it been?
Boss?
That's right. It's me. Talk to me. Let me hear your voice.
It's been 5 years, 72 days, and 18 hours.
You've lost weight.
You can tell just by the sound of my voice.
Of course I can. I know all about you.
Really? Well, I don't know anything about you.
What's that supposed to mean?
Why'd you disappear on me all of a sudden?
I was on a top secret mission. You didn't need me anymore.
But there were still so many things I wanted you to teach me.
No, I taught you everything you needed to know about fighting techniques. I taught you all I could. The rest you needed to learn on your own.
Techniques, sure. But what about how to think like a soldier?
How to think like a soldier? I can't teach you that. A soldier needs to be strong in spirit, body, and technique. And the only thing you can learn from someone else is technique. In fact, technique doesn't even matter. What's most important is spirit. Spirit and body are like two sides of a single coin. They're the same thing. I can't teach you how to think. You'll just have to figure it out for yourself. Listen to me, Jack. Just because soldiers are on the same side right now doesn't mean they always will be. Having personal feelings about your comrades is one of the worst sins you can commit. Politics determine who you face on the battlefield. And politics are a living thing. They change along with the times. Yesterday's good might be tomorrow's evil.
Is that why you abandoned me?
No, it had nothing to do with you. I already told you, Jack. I was on a top secret mission. A soldier has to follow whatever orders he's given. It's not his place to question why. But you are looking for a reason to fight. You are a natural-born fighter, but you're not quite a soldier. A soldier is a political tool, nothing more. That's doubly true if he's a career soldier. Right and wrong have no place in his mission. He has no enemies and no friends. Only the mission. You follow the orders you're given. That's what being a soldier is.
I do whatever I have to get the job done. I don't think about politics.
That's not the same thing. Sooner or later, your conscience is going to bother you. In the end, you have to choose whether you're going to live as a soldier or just another man with a gun. There's a saying in the Orient, loyalty to the end. Do you know what it means?
Being patriotic.
It means devoting yourself to your country.
I follow the president and the top brass. I'm ready to die for them if necessary.
The president and the top brass won't be there forever. Once their terms are up, others will take their place.
I follow the will of the leader, no matter who's in charge.
People aren't the ones who dictate the missions.
Then who does?
The times. People's values change over time, and so do the leaders of a country. So there's no such thing as an enemy in absolute terms. The enemies we fight are only enemies in relative terms, constantly changing with the times. As long as we have loyalty to the end, there's no point in believing in anything, even in those we love.
And that's the way a soldier's supposed to think?
The only thing we can believe in with absolute certainty is the mission, Jack.
All right, but do me a favor.
What is it?
Call me Snake.
Snake? Oh, right. Your codename is Snake. It suits you well.
That's right. The legendary unit that the boss put together during World War II was a snake. The Cobra unit. A group of heroes that brought the war to an end and saved the world. As long as you've got a legendary hero backing you up, you'll be fine. Isn't that right?
All right. So just wanted to end it there so it doesn't drag out for too long. But wanted to, hopefully that gave a sense here of kind of what the drama is to this game, and what the story is all about and all. And it just the characters really made this one for me as you're going on this really engrossing adventure with just like, again, all the survival mechanics of it at all. And yeah, I mean, just definitely an awesome game, and I can see why it's a lot of people's favorite Metal Gear Solid game. And I'm really looking forward to the new version that's coming out. I mean, I guess I should say I don't have too much high hopes for it. There's some concerns that I have about it all, but at the very least, it'll be interesting to see this game from a different perspective. But ultimately, if it doesn't really turn out to be that good, we have a few different versions we can play, of the original one here. But yeah, excellent game.
Coming in at number 22 is Astrobot. So Astrobot came out in 2024, and so that was just recently. And so this is a recent addition that I've had on my list here, and it ended up being Game of the Year of 2024. And what I thought was interesting was that there was some pretty stiff competition that year. I mean, we had we had Rebirth, Black Myth Wukong, and there was another one too also that I think was kind of a runner-up for potentially being a Game of the Year, but it ended up being Astrobot. And what I liked about that is that it's been a while, as far as I can remember, that there was a platformer that was considered for being Game of the Year. And so when it was getting all these accolades, I thought that, how much can a platformer really be resonating with a lot of people in this time? But once I got my hands on it, I think it was just after the first level that I just really fell in love with this game. It has a certain charm to it that honestly really rivaled a lot of the best that Nintendo can do. And after playing it for a while, I gotta say that it ended up being it probably ends up being one of my favorite 3D platformers of all time. There was just so much charm oozing from this game, and the play mechanics on it are really fun. It gives you a certain set of powers that you can use to traverse through the levels, and just makes it really fun to play. And it's done in a way where it's really simple. Like the control mechanics aren't really complex, right? You have your jump button, your punch button, and then you have your buttons that you can activate your powers on. And how you use those and the simplicity of it, but the complexity of the level designs is what just makes the game really fun and addicting to keep coming back to. Because as you start going through the levels, the challenge ramps up a little bit, but it's never too hard for, say, like a more casual playthrough. And just the stages that you go through, the bosses are really exciting too, also to play. And another thing that really hooks you on this game too, to keep coming back, as with most 3D platformers, is the collectibles. So, in many 3D platformers, you have something that you're collecting. In this one, what you're collecting is Astrobots, and the cool thing about it is that some of the Astrobots that you get end up being characters from a lot of our favorite video games. A lot of Sony games, obviously, because Astrobot is a Sony property, but you'll find there's a lot of hidden surprises here as far as a lot of the characters that you get. And that's just what made it really a real joy to play through, is just, seeing all the different characters that you can pick up. And this game here, we got so into it. So this is between me and my wife. Actually, really got into this game a lot too. She got really good at it as well. And my daughter, also Layla, she really enjoyed this game, and she's getting really good at it too. She's been able to beat some of the time trials on it. So for this podcast, I wanted to introduce my daughter and see what her thoughts are on it. So Layla, is there anything you want to talk about?
We're gonna do something to see what we can do in the crash fight, because there's gonna be a little bit of secrets I want to tell you in the crash fight.
Okay, yeah. So these are all the Astrobots, right, that we've done.
Hello. Hey, you get in your box. Get in your box. Yeah, that's what I thought.
So this has been a team effort where between myself, my wife, and my daughter Layla, we've gotten all these Astrobots. So
and my little sister. She's been always saying, "Layla, can you play Astrobot?"
She cheered us on for sure, yeah.
So if you see this ladder right here, you can climb up, and you see all your friends that are actually like you. And look, so if you go up this rope, I never go up there, but so look, I've been doing this all the time because this trampoline has your on it. And look,
ooh, and who do we got up here?
And look, because there's Spider-Man and Miles Morales, and look what happens. The cat takes his mask. And you can hit him, and you can actually get the reactions.
Whoa! So there's Miles Morales' lightning powers that he has.
And I don't think I punched Spider-Man before.
Whoa!
Oh, that's kind of cool. That's actually kind of
Very cool. Can you show us a little bit more about some of the Astrobots we've gotten?
So, this is what happens if you hit this guy, that's cutting. It's kind of disturbing. He cuts his head off! He cuts his head off! Something that made, something that is really funny that I did. Hey, is this a vampire?
That's
Helicopter!
Can you tell me what was the funnest thing that you liked about playing this game?
That, like it starts easy. So something that I do like is that it starts easy and then it goes a little bit hard to impossible.
Those last stages were really hard, huh?
Yeah.
The new stages that they came out with. So the awesome thing about this game too is that it, so many times with a lot of games we're used to microtransactions and them nickel and diming us for added content. This game is kind of I wasn't paying too much attention to it, but they secretly added new stages. And it was all free. And so at one point I logged into the game again and they had a bunch of extra stages, which had a lot of cool extra Astrobots in there. And trying to beat those stages was really difficult. But after a lot of trial and error, we finally were able to do it. What did you think about those hard stages?
They were impossible.
They were pretty hard, huh?
I'll show you where one of the stages are. So look. So one of them is really hard right here. Then it shows like all the power-ups and also so you could actually turn into a sponge in one of the levels.
Nope, he's saying hi.
And there's a armadillo, a bear, an octopus, a monkey, frogs, a penguin, a dog, a chicken, and a timer, and an elephant.
So those are the power-ups.
And the ball.
Right? Yeah.
So those are all that power-ups. So today we're gonna play the levels.
Right. I didn't notice that. You're right.
Yeah, and guys, I'm gonna play a little bit of levels that might actually have those power-ups. So I'm gonna show you what they do and how to do them.
Sure. Yeah. Can you show us the stage?
Yeah. I'll go like, where our little spaceship, and you're gonna be shocked what our spaceship even is. It's a little controller!
And the other really great thing about this one too is that it's a big showpiece for the haptics feedback on the controller. Because as you're doing a lot of the different moves and all the controller, the way it vibrates, it almost makes it feel like real, almost, right?
Yeah, like almost. It's like real. And so we are gonna first go into the snake where the sponge is.
Is that one of your favorite stages?
Yes, kind of. This was one of the hardest, a little bit of the hardest.
Yeah, it's a bit. It's challenging.
Something that's really cool about this game is that you could swim into water and there's like no thing, and this guy is annoying. So if you fall down, look. Because if you fall down like 100 times, you get like no game overs.
Yeah, so that's the nice thing about it because...
Yeah, and you have to punch this guy! Get out of here! I'm trying to make a podcast. Maybe that you could actually do. Whee! And these guys are super duper annoying. I hate them. Hey, get out of here! Get out of here! Yeah, that's what I thought.
And so then when you come across these treasure chests, right, it's where you get what... so here
so
you turn into a sponge.
This is the sponge!
And that's one of the fun things about it is the creativeness of how you use some of your power-ups on these stages, right, on how you can use them to beat some of the obstacles in the game.
So, that, if you get into water, this is what happens. because you're a sponge and you could blow up giant, and these little sponges you could put water in them so you could climb up them, which is super duper annoying and hard.
And so many of these stages are just littered with a bunch of different secrets and all that just makes it really addicting to explore all the different nooks and crannies of a level to, just see what you can uncover. Because it's not just the astrobots, you're also getting like puzzle pieces that allows you to buy certain items, right? When you're back at the main hub level that we were just on earlier. And
it's not a level.
And just also just kind of see a lot of the different little Easter eggs that they hide throughout these levels.
And I'm getting all dirty. That's what else you could do. But it's okay. You didn't become undirty. Get out of here. Move out of my way. What is? Yeah, that's what I thought. Oh my god, I hate this guy.
There you go. Good job.
I'm dying. So me, that's kind of annoying. Is you never know if this part is open, so you might actually fall. Actually, wee, my little hot feet.
And the nice thing about it too, also, and again, there's some very challenging levels that open up later.
Why did I melt in the shreds?
Just like the regular levels and all. It has just at least for me personally, has the right kind of difficulty where it's challenging, but not too super challenging, and the checkpoints are pretty generous. So that way, it just kind of makes it a addicting to just kind of,
and you can burn out these fires like a fighter
because you're not penalized too much for dying on him.
Look, it's me! It's me jumping.
You're a beefy astrobot there. Oh, and then you got the photo mode.
And you can actually dance in this game.
Nope.
You can dance.
Look at him go. Look at him go.
It's kind of hard to change his power-ups. I mean, his dance, because it's kind of hard and annoying. Because he's a big old sponge. The biggest sponge in the world. The biggest sponge in the world. This part is kind of annoying because of the fire.
Yeah.
This part is super slim.
Yeah, you gotta walk really slow, huh?
This part is not that hard. Who's this part? I never go there. I just ignore it. Walk away.
And so if you come across a section where we already got an astrobot, it just gives you some extra coins. And again, the coins can be used to purchase just a variety of items back on the main hub level.
Bro! Turn into the crumbs! I do not like this part.
What do you gotta do here again? Just wet the boxes somehow? Oh, there you go. Okay.
I do not like this part. I told my dad to help me because I do not like doing this part.
Yeah, there's some challenging parts in this. Oh, let's see if I remember how to do this even.
So you have to get the sponges wet, and then you have to go get them before they turn dry.
We gotta get them all wet though, huh?
Yeah, you have to get them all wet. That's actually kind of challenging.
Yeah, this is kind of hard because apparently you have to probably stand somewhere.
I have to get there.
Let's see.
Oh my god.
All right, did I get it there? Okay,
yes.
I think I got it there. Okay.
You have to.
There we go.
That's hard.
Okay, got it.
Oh my god, I'm not the biggest fan of that part. So if you guys don't know how to do this, I know. That's the Lego. So you have to go over here, but you might want to be careful because these guys are not even close away. Ah, hiyo.
Oh. Got to be careful with the spiky ones, huh? They're tricky.
Yeah, because you could punch them, but you have to be careful because they can spike you. If you just saw what happens. Boom. Hiyo. Whee! I'm turning into water. So you have to get on this side of the water and then you have to
a secret.
and you land in the water.
Oh, I remember this one. This one's a little tricky. Think you're up for the challenge?
I mean, I have done this one before. What's that? Oh, looks like I actually got the fire right here. That's cool. Is it color changed?
Good job.
So there used to be a power up here. If you see me going weird, the coin is actually supposed to be an Astrobot, but I
Hey, you did really good on that. Good job.
And I barely even died. And you can go over here and look to the trampoline. Let's go. Oh, I forgot you have to turn into water. Daddy, I got your I hate the fire!
Yeah, I think we're reaching almost the end of the stage, huh?
And we are, because I think this is over there. I want to turn width. I need to turn width.
You have the stage memorized pretty well. Oh, yeah, there it is. And then once you reach the end of the stage, everyone...
Look at the monkey! It's a monkey!
So all the Astrobots, and now we've already gotten these and all, but all of them line up there.
That's
and all
the weird
dance. Just a lot of clever animation.
No!
Yeah, so that's an example there of a stage from Astrobot. Again, if you ever pick this game up for some reason, definitely check it out. Once you've beaten the game or after you access more things in the game, you get a lot of these extra levels. As you can see, some of those circles there on the side. And those are the ones that I remember, big challenge. And the last stage on this game that was released fairly recently was that was quite a challenge, but it actually kind of brought out my old school gaming skills and all that. It took me a while to beat it, but recently did. So after this here, I'm going to show a clip of us beating that stage. But yeah, Astrobot, it's definitely one of the more better games on the PlayStation 5 out right now.
And my dad freaked out that he was so close to the end and he thought he was going to die. And he did it. And then he finally made it to this thing, which was so cool.
Yep.
Hey, no.
And I'll show a clip of that right after.
Oh, I got it. I beat it!
You did it! You did it!
Coming in at number 21 is Mass Effect 2. This game originally came out back in, let's see, this would have been 2010, and came out originally on the Xbox 360. Again, not sure if it came out on PC at that time, excuse me, but it would eventually come out on the PlayStation 3 later as a trilogy bundle deal. If the video sometimes, or what you're seeing on screen and all, if it kind of fuzzes out a bit and all, is I didn't have this game downloaded, and so I'm trying to play it streaming, and the internet is just not picking it up that well here. Oh, as you can see there. But I'll try to get through here as much as I can as I'm talking about this game. But basically, Mass Effect 2 is the one that made it into this list out of the 3 in the original trilogy. But realistically, it's kind of all 3 games, though, because they're all tied together, right? And so I say Mass Effect 2, but I'm really meaning the whole thing. I know that's a little cheating, but, well, whatever. But Mass Effect 2, just as a standalone game, right, and all, it definitely is the one that was, I feel, done the best. I mean, it's just the overall scope of what they did with these games, the story to it and all, and how they all sort of connect to each other and all that. It's one of the best. I mean, one of the most ambitious stories out there in video gaming in terms of just how everything connects together and all. I just thought was just very well done, and how they pulled it all off for the most part, and it being fairly cohesive and all that, and that it it keeps you engaged throughout all 3 games and all, was just, I mean, it definitely deserves a round of applause. I mean, they really nailed a lot of things with this one here. And yeah, I mean, it's just, they basically created a brand new space opera of stories that, while yes, it does take a lot of inspiration from things like Star Wars and Star Trek and maybe stuff like Battlestar Galactica and all that, it is its own thing. And the journey that you go through from part 1 all the way to the end of part 3 is really amazing, although with a side caveat of the ending of part 3, which was heavily criticized and all that, where eventually BioWare had to step back and add more to the ending and all that. And honestly, I've never beaten the game or gone through the whole trilogy after that patch, because when I first beat it, I beat part 3. I went through part 1, 2, and 3, and when I beat the 3rd one, it was before that patch came out, so I'm not even sure what it looks like at that point. And so I've been kind of going through a second playthrough since the remastered version came out, so I'm kind of interested in to see what that's like. But so this is from BioWare, the makers of the Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, which I also had on this list too also. So it keeps kind of the same style of where you can be a good person or a bad person, but in this one it's considered let's see, what is it? A Paragon and a Renegade. So more or less kind of the same thing, light side, dark side, but it's a little bit more, there's more nuances to it, right? Where it's not quite as, black and white, where there is a bit more, the Renegade side doesn't always feel as cruel, and the Paragon side isn't necessarily always just completely benevolent. So I did like that about it, that it does have a bit more of a gray morality to the choices that you make. And so, yeah, that was pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, the journey that you take through with these games, I mean, with all your characters, they're just really fun to interact with. So here I got Garrus and Rex, I believe is his name. And so, they created their own alien species and all. And so it's kind of cool to learn about their backstories and where they come from and all that. And there's tons of dialogue in this game too also, and it's really well written. The acting is spot on all across the 3 games.
Oh no, wait. Rex is the one in this one. I forgot what the other guy's name was, but and what this game was really innovative on also is so you have your tree dialogue where you can have a lot of different multiple things that you can select from as far as your responses to interactions with characters, but they do it in a way where it's sort of like in a wheel where it just makes it really easy to select your options, and the way they streamlined it and all just makes it a lot more fun. So here, for example, like if it's a top option, it's going to be more of a Paragon. If it's a bottom one, it's going to be either you're exiting something or it's more of a Renegade option. And if it's in the middle, you're either asking about something or more of a neutral position. But yeah, it's the fun of it is just, really feeling like you are living out your own space adventure with these very cool cast of characters. It's not completely mature as far as there's not like blood and guts of, and all that, but it is a more of a mature storyline, right? Where it's on par of just a really good, episode of like Star Wars and all too, where it's more mature. It doesn't, I mean, it has some humor in it and all for sure, right? And all, but it's not like silly or anything, and everything just feels a bit more, obviously it's in space and all that, but it feels more grounded, right, than your typical space opera stories. And so for that, I really liked it because it sort of respected the audience as far as, wanting to give a more mature take on something like this, where I felt like sometimes Star Wars can be, for example, a little goofy or, a little, I don't know, Star Wars kind of went in a different direction for me after a while, but yeah, but where that kind of dropped the ball for me, Mass Effect really gave me a lot of years of just fun space exploration stories, because the first one came out in 2007, the third one in 2012, so that time stretch right there of 5 years, just had these amazing games to go to, and they're just so much fun to play through and go through all the different dialogue options, how the story plays out, right, and all depending on how you're, the choices you're making, and you got to choose between a male and a female, and the acting on them is done really well, because unlike most games where you customize your own character, you do in this one, but they actually have a voice actor that does, that speaks for them instead of just being like a silent protagonist. And so for the male version, I forgot the actor's name, but he does a really good job. And for the female version, which you're seeing here, is the incredible Jennifer Hale. She's definitely been one of my more favorite female actresses out there, and that she gets to play this role here. I thought that she did a really good job, as she has enough of a commanding tone in her voice, but also at the same time has a certain softness to it too as well, especially if you play it in, I believe, like in the Paragon version with her. So I like playing a female as a Paragon and then a male as a Renegade, because I feel like the male actor, he kind of sounds like a bit of a prick, which goes really well with that style there, if you choose to go down that path. But yeah, a lot of content to these. I mean, if you've never played the Mass Effect series, you have a whole lot of game here. I mean, like I said, there's 3 games. Each one of them is like 20 to 30 plus hours or so, give or take, depending on how much you go through it. And the gameplay itself, it plays like a third person shooter. And the first one was a little, it wasn't the best, but part 2, and this is why this one is just so beloved, is part 2 really perfected the gunplay, where, I mean, it almost feels as something like a Gears of War. So, and so it plays really well. It's really fun. It's like you're playing like a really long action game, but there's enough variety in there and all where it doesn't, make you, where you're going to get bored of it. And the story itself, especially on the second one, is really cool, as a big chunk of the story is you have a main objective that you're trying to get to. But to do this said objective, you're trying to amass a small little army of recruits that are going to help you do this. And as you're gathering these allies, you get to interact, with them, and then their backstories and all that. And so that's where you just come across some really cool scenarios. And again, a lot of the time I feel like some of the best stories is not just a plot, but also that you have really interesting and engaging characters. And this one really nailed that aspect there. Again, this is the main character here. And again, it can be a male or female. And then Garrus, he's really cool. He's one of my more favorite characters in the series. And what's his name? Grunt. Yeah, Grunt. There you go, Grunt. Yeah, he's another cool character. But all of them are really well written, really cool. And you'll some of the best fun in this game and all is just getting to know a lot of their backstories. And something about this one here that felt really polished. The gunplay was really well done, the way you use your special moves and all. And so again, you had a really engaging story with really great gameplay. It combined it to just probably one of the better sequels out there. And which is why this one, the part 2 specifically, is very beloved. But realistically, I mean, the whole series as a whole, right? Because it's all sort of one package, right? And yeah, if for some reason you haven't experienced these games, you owe it to yourself to dive into them, because there's just so much good stuff here, and I feel like you'll come out highly impressed with it.